Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting of the PCDC together. The time is 6:05, and the first thing on our order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I want it to be independent.
Independent.
All right, good evening, folks. Going right to it, item number 3, I'll open up the session to any public comment. Is there anyone here who'd like to address the board?
Yes.
Fine.
Well, I was just waiting for the audience to respond. I have some comments, Mr. President.
Fantastic.
The first one, I'd like to start out by introducing Mary Thompson, who is here this evening on behalf of Jeff Thompson, who served on our board for 2 years and recently took a position with the TERS board, the Tax Increment Finance Zone board in the city, as their president, I believe, or chairman. I'm not sure which one they call him, but he's the big guy. Anyway, he's taken over that position, and as a result of that, has resigned his position on the PCDC board. That happened back in December, and we wanted to recognize his service this evening. So Jeff could not be here, so his lovely wife, Mary, is here this evening. And Mr. President, if you would help me in presenting this to her on behalf of Jeff. And we want you to open it so you can see what he got, and you can wrap it back up so it'll be a surprise, okay?
I'm happy to open it.
Okay.
Why don't we,
And we want a picture, so even though it's not Jeff, you're much prettier.
Oh. I appreciate that. Take that as a compliment.
we will come to you with this one.
We know the real reason is able to be through all those things is because you're here with everything.
Oh, yeah.
Stand up on it.
Oh, sure.
Move that. Lovely picture with, there you go.
Congratulations.
Just a little bit, so I don't get the podium in the picture. There we go. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Maybe. Why is mine?
Or not.
We could have photoshopped.
All right, we're good now. 1, 2, 3. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Okay.
Go for it.
Let's see the, right here.
You move by Grace so you don't spill.
You know, Jeff really wanted to be here, but he's out of town, so.
So we bought him a wrap, actually.
Oh.
Hey.
Uh-oh.
You get it out without.
There you are.
Oh,
So,
wow, that was nice.
Vicki, you want to read that out loud?
Do you want to read it?
Sure. This is presented to Jeff Thompson, 2016 to 2018, Board of Directors, Pflugerville Community Development Corporation.
With a big thank you.
That's
Big
beautiful.
thank you at the top.
That's beautiful. He will have a special place for this, I know. Thank you very much.
Very welcome. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Our best to your team.
Thanks.
Thank
Jeff.
you. All right, I'm gonna throw this back in here and we never looked at it. Good as new.
Surprise, surprise.
Thank you.
So the second order of announcement is we have this evening with us a lifetime achiever. Jeff Coleman was recognized by the Pflugerville Chamber of Commerce for lifetime achievements, and we are so proud of him. This happened since our last board meeting, and I wanted to have the opportunity to thank you for all the service you've done for our community and to also congratulate you on this great honor.
Thank you. It was definitely an honor. I appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I know that we had talked about some of the accomplishments of staffs at our Business First meeting, but I actually wanted to also recognize for the board, if you had not attended, that Matt Lara has completed his master's as of December 31. And we're very proud of him. Matt got his degree. If you want to tell a little bit about it real quickly?
Sure. So I went to Johns Hopkins and finished my degree in communications, and then it has concentrations in politics and digital communications. So hopefully I can apply some of that here.
He's doing a great job for us. We're really happy that he's accomplished this goal, and we look forward to other great things. He continues to do online training as well through lynda.com. As you recall, we helped to finance lynda.com through the public library here at Pflugerville. And as a result of that, it offers all kinds of opportunities for training. Matt, you want to tell just a little bit about that?
So I've just been doing a bunch of the graphic design stuff since that's not my background, but I have a pretty good understanding of Photoshop and design. But the courses definitely offer a lot of insight and some tips and tricks and techniques that I just didn't know or thought about. So I try to do at least one of those once a week if I can find something on it. But they're actually really good courses. So.
Thank you, Matt. And I want the board to know that, training, education of our local workforce, that we're taking advantage of that program here at the PCDC, and I think that's pretty cool. I want to also recognize Crystal for her having completed her basics course in economic development. Crystal, would you stand, please, and come up to front? So Crystal went to a week-long session and learned from all different experts in economic development. You want to tell a little about your experience?
It was pretty phenomenal, actually. I heard from the best of the best, except Amy wasn't there, so it wasn't the best of the best of the best. But I heard from the best in the industry across every sector you can think of, from target industries to professional development to, how to work with the Texas Comptroller's Office to finance, you name it. I heard it all. We had modules in each of those areas where we had to solve a problem or sell a site or create a work plan or learn how to work with different entities in the city. So it was phenomenal, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
We really are excited about it because Crystal's done such a great job for us already, helping us with our operations. Of course, she also aids with support for the board. But with this training, we can expand her capability in the future. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
And finally, not last but not least, for sure, and that would be introducing our new intern, Michelle. Help me pronounce your last name. No. Okay. So before she actually speaks, go ahead and come to the podium. I just want to tell you a little bit about how we ran into her. So I'm in a local club called Rotary, and Rotary sponsors two young women and two young men out of the high schools in the area to attend a leadership camp. And as part of that, I participated on the interview committee, and we interviewed a total of, I think it was 8 women and 2 gentlemen. And Michelle was one of them. And so she came in, and not only did I have the honor of calling and telling her later that she had been selected for the leadership camp, during the interview, she said that she was looking for a job. And so we began talking because we've been trying to get our internship program off the ground. And she was interested, applied, and we've gone through the channels interviewing her and all of that, and have made the selection. And she is here this evening for her first actual interaction as a PCDC intern. Michelle, would you tell them a little bit about yourself?
My name is Michelle No. I'm currently a junior at Weiss High School. I am involved in a lot of school clubs such as Student Council, Rotary, FCCLA, AP Ambassadors, BPA, Prom Council, and probably more, but I don't really remember right now. I applied for this internship because I really wanted to build my resume before heading off to college. My dream college at the moment is UT. It's always been UT. Really want to stay in Austin. I'm currently enrolled in 6 AP classes, which is super hard, but I'm going to try my best.
Can you tell them what an AP class is, just in case they don't know?
Okay. I'm in AP Computer Science, AP Chemistry, AP Physics, AP Psych, AP US History, and then AP English.
Okay, and what does the AP stand for?
Advanced Placement.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was after.
And then, yeah, I hope that this internship will help push me to my endeavors in the future.
Well, thank you for being here this evening. You're going to aid us this evening and be with us throughout, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Any other public comment, please? There being none, we'll move right on to number 4. Review and approve the regular meeting minutes and January 26th work session minutes. If you take a second to review those.
So just for future, you don't have to put the apostrophe ever in my name.
Gotcha.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but never is required.
Okay.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the minutes.
We have a motion,
I'll support that.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on, number 5, approve the January 2019 financials. The executive director has any comment, or the treasurer?
We do not have any really outstanding exceptions this month. We're moving along pretty well with our budgeting as we had anticipated. Some of our items of expenditure are a little higher in the beginning of the year, and then they flush out during the year. But there's nothing of consequence or anything of significance to really report this period.
I would just point out the new quarterly investment report.
Yes. I was going to let them just look at the financials first, but we are introducing the very first time a quarterly investment report. It is not really ready until after it's actually been a full quarter. And so, because this is January, that would be based on the last quarter. We did not have our text pool account set up until January. So for that reason, you're not going to see the text pool information in there but the report that we have in there is what you're going to see every time. So we wanted to introduce it this time so that you would be used to it. So but by next time, when we do have all of the documentation that will include our new text pool investment account, that you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. So this is just a preliminary. Here's the draft. This is what it's going to look like. It will also include our money market, because both of those are considered investment accounts. All of this is per the law and what is required and per our financial investment policy. So we meet all of our requirements in that policy and the law that's stated in terms of investment for a public entity. I'll take any questions on that as well.
We look at 6,400 recruitment manager.
Yes, sir.
Specifically 64,400 for 100 recruitment programs as a whole. You're at 82% right now.
At what?
At 82% of the budget.
Yes.
Any adjustments?
Not at this time. We really don't anticipate any. Most of the trips and such, some of those have been prepaid as well. So we're still looking to see if there's going to be any adjustment needed. But again, we also have the advantage of, we don't have to make adjustments necessarily unless it affects the bottom line of the
Right.
entire category.
Yeah, we're good within the whole categories.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments on the budget?
Oh.
On the financials, I'm sorry.
I was just going to comment that we will be bringing you our audit next month. And per our conversation today, there were no exceptions. We'll see that in a letter coming forward, and we do have some good news that will be addressed in March as well.
Mr. Weiss, you had some comments about the cumulative and the percentage budget on the sales tax revenue analysis.
You did?
at one point.
I may have
I didn't take an opportunity to review it this month.
Then I got no other questions.
Was there anything you wanted to modify on that,
I
Mr.
don't.
Treasurer?
Nothing else?
And I move to approve the financials.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Moving on, number 6, discuss only 2019-7374, discussion and presentation regarding Girl Start, presented by Tamara Huggins.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Doctor, Executive Director.
Tamara, I would love to get a photo with you following your presentation, so don't run off.
Very gracious.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm clicking.
Outstanding.
So I'll be honest, I retreaded my slides from a NASA presentation. So when you see NASA in here, I'm just trying to impress you, right?
We're impressed already.
Right. So my name's Tamara Hudgens. Don't worry about pronouncing, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's so hard. I don't need to speak in it. Do I?
You're fine.
All right, well, public meetings, sometimes you need to, so anyway, I don't want to keep my back to anyone, but I'm not sure why I'm here. Maybe you know why I'm here. You asked me to be here, so here I am.
Well, if I could address that real quickly. One of the things that the board has requested of staff is for us to arrange for a nonprofit organization to come and tell their story about what they're doing in the community and the surrounding regional area. For us, it's informative, it's awareness of what's happening beyond our reach, what we're doing, but we also have video, live video feed, so that other people can actually hear it as well. So it's an opportunity for not only to tell your story to these fine people here, but all the folks that may be watching at home.
And are you serving as a function like a community foundation in that way?
We're an economic development organization, and so what we're trying to do is to learn more about the community and what the services are that are around us beyond the ones that we do. Ours is driven as a public entity. We have certain restrictions, but learning about the nonprofits in our area is important to us.
I used to run community foundation direction.
Okay.
All right, so Girl Start, what do? We provide STEM education for girls. For those of you who are not in the know about STEM, we're not talking about stem cell research, we're talking about science, technology, engineering, and math. There's a lot of tiny slide words up there that basically say that that's what we do. We were founded in 1997 in Austin. The reason being that women earn roughly half of the nation's bachelor's degrees, but in STEM occupations, women occupy approximately 25% of STEM jobs, with far fewer of them, less than 20%, being engineering jobs and computer science jobs. That number goes down dramatically if you happen to not be white. We have been providing STEM education for girls in the region since that time. We are one of the nation's longest serving, can I go back? STEM education programs in America. I realize that that sounds kind of bizarre, but in your backyard, you have one of the nation's preeminent STEM education organizations, not just for girls, but for anyone. We have been serving the Pflugerville community in particular with our year-round Girl Star after-school programs since roughly 2010. We have had 2 National Science Foundation grants that were supported from DC, and we were serving some stripe of Pflugerville schools at that time. I came to Girl Start in fall of 2009, so I can only speak about that time forward. Right now, we are providing Girl Start After School in 8 Pflugerville elementary schools. We have 37 Girl Start After School programs in Central Texas generally. 94 after-school programs up today. Most of those are in Texas, but we are expanding to California and Massachusetts also. So, what we do? Girl Start After School is a weekly free program for girls 4th and 5th grade. Our goal is to build STEM skills, increase acumen and interest in STEM generally, and to encourage girls to continue to opt in to STEM as something that is germane for them. The reason is because during these years, girls begin to have doubt, and that doubt then discourages them from continuing to opt in. So through our programs, what we do is we build their skills. What does that mean? We do hands-on activities every week throughout the school year. They're aligned with the TEKS and Next Generation Science Standards. What that does, by definition, is it gets girls to have an additional hour of STEM activities per week. When you think about Texas, not so much Pflugerville, but we'll just speak about Texas broadly. Children in the elementary school receive approximately 2.6 hours of science each week. So an additional hour adds a dramatic increase in the amount of science instruction that they're receiving. What does that mean? That means, and you've got fancy papers in there, I will refer you to the document called Strong Promise. What does that mean? It means that when we work with a school and a district or a community generally, we're working with groups of girls, approximately 25 at every school that we serve. In Pflugerville, we've got Brook Hollow, Copperfield, Dessau, Spring Hill, Wheeland, Northwest, Riojas, and I always forget Farmer Lane. That's 8. We increase girls' grades in science and math, so they are getting not just our programs, but then they're performing better in the classroom with regard to science and math. Then what happens is in the spring of the 5th grade, a thing happens called the STAR test. This is the first administration of the STAR test in science for children at that point in time. What we know from the research that we have done, we have research from 2014, you have the 2016 research, we're working on another iteration of our research to find out more about our impact. But Girl Start girls do dramatically better on science and math STAR in the spring of the 5th grade. What does that mean? That means then that girls who are in our programs are more likely to take advanced math and science in the 6th grade, in the 7th grade, and beyond. What we can see, page 23 and 26 of the large Strong Promise report shows you that Girl Start after school girls take more math and science, advanced math and science classes than non-participants, and the number of classes that they take goes up over time. Whereas non-Girl Start participants take a fewer number of advanced classes, also known as AP, 3AP, and the number goes down over time. So that means that Girl Start girls are getting to Algebra 1 in the 8th grade at a higher rate. That is a clear indicator for social justice issues. You are likely to be more successful if you take Algebra 1 in the 8th grade. Very good spot right now. Did you take Algebra 1 in the 8th grade? Yes. Boom! For the win. Like that.
And that's our new intern.
We'll be talking later. So, Girl Start girls take advanced math and science at a higher rate, and the number of classes that they goes up over time. What does that mean? That means that when they present themselves at the door of high school, they're perceived as being STEM ready when they are then going to college. When we're speaking about the girls that we typically, could you close your ears now? Thank you. When we talk about the chief girls that we're reaching in Girl Start after school, 75% of them are low socioeconomic status, and approximately 80% of them are not white. That matters, because what we are not only is an important preparation program for girls that encourages them to opt into science, but we're also offering pathways out of poverty, particularly for diverse girls. That is meaningful for Pflugerville because you guys have a very diverse community. Riojas, for example, elementary, is one of our largest Vietnamese populations among the schools that we serve in Central Texas. Pflugerville in particular represents a broad diversity of voices, languages, and backgrounds. And that's particularly important when we're talking about STEM because we want a lot of girls with a lot of ideas coming together to solve challenges when all of us are older, right? All right. So that's kind of the long and the short about Girl Start. We fundamentally care about reaching more girls with high-quality STEM education programs. The work that we have done, and there's, STEM is cool now, right? It's all the rage, everybody's doing it. You may hear about STEAM. We're not saying STEAM, we're only saying STEM. I actually come from the arts originally, so that I say that the arts shouldn't be part of STEM should let you know that we're very serious about this work. Girl Start After School and Girl Start Summer Camp, which is a program we provide in our building in Austin, have both been recognized by something called Change the Equation, which is a national clearinghouse for what works in STEM in America. And we're the only organization in America to have 2 programs accredited by Change the Equation as accomplished programs. Girl Start Summer Camp has also been further identified as one of 4 programs in America that's called Ready to Scale. We're dedicated to Central Texas. I don't anticipate that our programs would change dramatically in Central Texas. We have, however, because of demand for STEM and high-quality STEM, particularly when we are getting the results that we get, and no other organization in America is actually getting the same kind of results that we are, especially external evaluation outcomes. You can see both internal and external evaluations in that packet there. So if there's no other organization in America that's doing what we do, then we have a responsibility to grow, because 100% of girls are underserved in STEM in America. That means 10 million plus between the ages of 10 and 14. We have a responsibility to provide programs in as much as they are potentially sustainable. So in 2015, we started scaling outside of Central Texas with a purposeful kind of plan. We have an office in Houston, we have an office in North Texas, and now we're growing outside of Texas to Massachusetts and California. So that's kind of the long and the short of what we do, particularly with regard to Pflugerville. We're not so much providing our summer camp programs in Pflugerville, but there are a ton of girls from Pflugerville who do come to Girl Star for summer camp programs. Because they are so proximate to our building on Anderson Lane between Burnett and Lamar, we have not been providing our summer camp programs because it's not that far to go to Austin. Girl Star girls who participate in our after-school programs also are eligible to receive some scholarships to come to our summer camp programs in Austin as well. 97% of the girls that we reach are being provided with our programs at no cost to them. What more do you need to know?
That's awesome.
How are you funded?
Of the $2.5 million annual budget that we have, approximately $200,000 comes from a large fancy special event in Austin. Approximately $110,000 comes from summer camp. The rest of it is philanthropic dollars, including a very nice multi-year grant from NASA.
Wow.
And hopefully soon another large grant from the Department of Ed. But we'll see.
Not to sound like a traitor to my own community, but does this also cover Round Rock?
Does.
Outstanding. I happen to have a granddaughter in Round Rock.
What school?
Boop.
My answer to you is Voight, which she's probably not at, Caraway, which is possible, and then there's Bluebonnet, but I think we pulled it at Bluebonnet.
I believe she is or was at Bluebonnet. I think she's at Bluebonnet.
Yeah. So anyway, because we don't get paid by schools, we don't get paid by districts, we don't get paid by girls or by parents for our programs, we are trying to be accessible in that way. We get paid in love. And when a school loves us, then that collaboration is fantastic. And when a school district either doesn't get us, doesn't understand us, doesn't care about STEM, whatever, we vote with our feet. And I would say that, it's interesting, our relationship with Pflugerville ISD is very good. You guys have a wonderful trustee in the form of Carol Fletcher, who is obvious, you guys know, I don't need to tell you who she is. She's a great friend of Girl Starts. And she is obviously strong and interested in making sure that Pflugerville children have access to programs. Is that the only reason why we're here? No. Pflugerville schools are relatively easy to work with, and they are open and collaborative. Again, we're getting paid in love. It's actually harder for a principal to love us than it is to write a check or be transactional. So we have really great relationships with our schools, and we want to do that year over year over year. So the districts that we're in the area, obviously Austin, Pflugerville, 8 schools, Round Rock with 2 or 3. Georgetown has a pretty strong stripe. I have relationships there. We have a couple in Leander, 1 in Del Valley, a bunch in Hayes, and then of course, because the need is not so high west of Mopac, not so much.
Yeah, you came highly recommended by Dr. Fletcher
Yeah, she's great.
as a whole. And do you ever work with any other groups? We heard from Code to College here at one particular point. Any relationships with that group? Similar demographics, at least.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, Code to College may have been founded in the last 5 years, perhaps. So they themselves are also working out their own organizational development life cycle, if that makes sense. And that's why Girl Start is an interesting and unique bird in that way. Because we're 22 years old now, we've gone through a lot of our growing pains. I'm not the founding ED, I'm I'm the sustaining ED. And so I have run a variety of nonprofit organizations, and I can tell you that it is challenging in an organization's first 5 to 10 years of existence. They're probably working on a bunch of stuff. Have we met them in conferences and meetings? Absolutely. We work really well with entities like UTeach because there's a great symbiotic relationship. They are trying to prepare STEM-friendly teachers, and as part of their pedagogy, what they're trying to do is they're trying to have their students actually have internship opportunities before they student teach. Many teachers in the state of Texas don't get an opportunity to test out of classroom until their senior year. Chances are you want to know if you're great in front of class or not before the senior year. And so with UTeach, we're able to provide internship opportunities so that their students can then, in our after-school clubs and or our summer camp programs, they get a low-risk, fun, informal environment where they're able to go, you know what, am I really good at this teaching thing? So entities like UTeach we really work well with. We also, of course, work with a lot of corporations that like to have their employees volunteer.
Thanks, Tamara.
Thank you very much.
Do you use volunteers primarily for work in the schools, or you have staff? How's this?
We have 255 college students that we hire every year.
Okay.
We work with every university within stone throwing distance in Central Texas. We love volunteers. We love volunteers for typically short-term engagements because, as you guys know, all being volunteers, or most of you being volunteers, it is really hard to consistently be in a given place at a given time every week throughout the school year. And in order to kind of increase the level of accountability and consistency, because one of the things that's different about Girl Start After School, for example, contrasted with any number of other organizations, is that it is out of school every week throughout the school year. It's not 4 to 6 weeks, it's not 10 weeks, we're there. And so that means we need somebody to be there, and the best way to do that is to make sure that they're accountable. And it's really hard with volunteers when you know what? So, but we rely on volunteers for a lot of other stuff. We have boards of directors like you guys, we have committees, we have sweat equity volunteers, we have subject matter experts who are volunteers. We work with approximately 1,100 volunteers every year. So you guys have the new by the numbers, I don't even know those numbers yet. It's on your sheet.
Are there opportunities for scholarships? So if an organization wanted to donate money, is there a way to assure that that money is going to specific children, or is there anything like that? Summer camp scholarships, whatever the answer
So
is.
we do have an initiative that we call very simply Central Camp, because we will be sending approximately 650 to 700 girls to camp for free this coming summer. We're going to be reaching close to 1,000 girls this summer with Girl Start Summer Camp. Some of them will be reached on scholarship at our building in Austin, some of them will be in Hayes, some of them will be in other parts of Texas. But yes, we will be reaching a lot of girls with camp, and that would be one relevant way to do that.
And then what's the cost per camp?
It costs us approximately $650 to provide a week of camp for a girl. We say that $300 sends a girl to camp, because $650 is a lot.
And could an organization assure that it's somebody coming from Pflugerville? So in other words, that money is going towards somebody from a Pflugerville family?
We can absolutely prioritize and or ensure that it's a Pflugerville student. What we can't do and what you can't do, because the whole IRS thing is involved, is identify one particular person, because that's an inherent issue.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
I forgot to say, one thing I should have said, our commitment to Pflugerville ISD over the last, certainly since 2011, has represented well over $1 million in direct services provided to the district. And now, how will the cost cut?
Thank you very much. Outstanding presentation, very worthwhile.
See you guys.
All right, we're going to move now to item 6C on the agenda,
You wanted a picture,
2019.
didn't you?
If you want a picture, you better catch her.
She wanted, that's right, she wanted a photograph. Whoop.
Can we get the board to?
My apologies, we're gonna have to take a quick little interlude.
Everybody has to get up and come over here on this side of the podium. I mean, on the other side of the aisle.
tried.
Is it possible to get right underneath there so we can get the real start, maybe the first slide or something behind it? That would be kind of a nice
Just go to
background.
slide one.
Yeah. Okay, we have the one with the two girls. There we go.
You guys can block the clock.
Yeah, you can lock it. And the trash cans too.
I'll block the trash.
Oh.
I called for it.
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And let's see.
Okay. Thank you so much. Take it easy.
Thank
No,
you so
not
much.
too much. Okay. Take care. I live in Walmart, so on the way.
It was in the calendar at 6:30.
I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting so skinny. I tell you what.
Is that where she said she was going?
Okay. All right, and so I'll just say a few words and I'll
All right, we're all back? Okay, picking up where we left off, 2019-73-96, discussion and presentation regarding the timeline and future budget amendment to support a grant application submittal from the PCDC and the Workforce Solutions Capital Area Board to the Texas Workforce Commission for up to $150,000 for a high-demand job training grant award to it.
And the rest of that?
And the rest of that. Don't we know where the period is on the typewriter?
You have to take a deep breath and just go for it, Mr. President.
We don't use typewriters.
Are you done?
Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Well, it is with great excitement that I introduce this next discussion. As you know, that since 2014, the PCDC has been looking for ways that we could potentially take advantage of the high-demand job training program that's offered through the Texas Workforce Commission and overseen by the Texas Workforce Solutions Board. The funding is only available to 4A and 4B corporations in the state of Texas. And since we're the only 4B corporation in Travis County where the Capital Area Workforce Solutions resides, then we really have an advantage. But trying to find a grant is one thing. Finding a project that it fits and that actually adds value to our community is quite another. So it's taken us a little longer to discover the right project at the right time. But we have done that. And we're very excited today to be introducing a project that we're hoping to submit for the award that would come from the Texas Workforce Commission. But we're on a tight deadline. Once we did get it identified, we've had several meetings with several groups, and I don't want to tell you everything about the program. I'm going to let someone else do that in just a minute. But I do want you to know that it has been vetted with all of the entities, which includes Travis County ESD, Texas Workforce Commission, the Texas Workforce Solution Board, where Jerry Briones serves, and the Pflugerville ISD. Collaborating with all these different organizations, we hope to bring home that grant, and it is a matching grant, so that means that the PCDC would have to put up $150,000 in order to receive up to $150,000 from the Workforce Solutions Board. So what we have to do is to complete an application and get it in prior to March 6th. And so this evening, Rob Humphreys is here from the ESD to talk a little bit about the program that has been going on in the ISD that could benefit from the grant and what they're doing currently and what their needs are. Rob?
Thanks, Amy. Good evening. Thank you for the invitation. Most of you know me, but I'm Rob Humphrey. I'm the HR director over at the Fire District for Chief Mullenberg. And one of the issues, if you look at this issue strategically in our area, statewide, we're sitting at about 3.7% unemployment. That's exacerbated here in the capital region by a whole point. We're at 2.7 right now unemployment in this area. So for all intents and purposes, we're struggling to find the human resources to plug in where the needs of the community is. And with the district having rolled out over the last 2 years advanced life support, ambulance transport, and those services, we have found ourselves always looking for and developing both EMTs themselves as well as paramedics. So in order to move left of what we would call that issue and move left of the hiring date, we partnered with the Pflugerville Independent School District and stood up a program that affords high school seniors in both their first and second semesters across the senior year an opportunity to participate in one of two programs that we have there. One in the fire science, and prepares them and affords them the opportunity to certify as a basic firefighter by the end of their senior year of high school. And the other track is for EMTs, or emergency medical technician basic. And we afford them the same opportunity to receive their national registry certification by the end of their senior year. This high demand job training program fits very well with what we've partnered with the ISD. And so in order to move forward, we've got to identify an entity that is willing to match the funds that the state of Texas is willing to provide through grant from federal funds in order to support the program at the high school. The fire side of the program is currently being hosted at Hendrickson. It's on site. Right now we have somewhere around just over 22 students right now in the program this year. Last year that program was about 18. This year on our EMT program, we have about 18 students. That was somewhere a little over a dozen last year. So both programs have grown quite a bit this year. With both programs comes a lot of equipment investment. And that investment has been made mainly right now by the fire district in the form of what we call bunker gear. It's the typical helmets and jackets and pants and boots, as well as what we call the breathing apparatus that they train with. On the EMT side, all of the medical supplies, all of the textbooks, on both sides, right now are all being funded by the fire district. And so we're seeing with these funds available that we would provide them not necessarily to the fire district, but to the school district. And the school district would then take those funds and appropriately expend them with the support of Workforce Solutions Board towards both equipment and supplies that would be necessary to foster an expansion of the program over the next couple of years, as well as continue to foster the opportunity for coming upperclassmen in the program. I'm available for your questions, and I understand, Tracy walked in the door, there she is. So from the school district, Tracy is here as well, Hendricks, and she can answer questions from the school perspective.
What is the benefit to these kids when they graduate with these certifications? Can they get a job based on that amount, or is that just step one of 8?
That is step one of 2. Good question, Mr. Coleman. In order to be a certified available for hire firefighter in the state of Texas, you have to have both certificates, both your firefighter basic certificate from the Texas Commission on Fire Protection, as well as your EMT basic certification from the Department of State Health Services. So once you have both those certificates, you can then work in any fire department across the state. What we're doing is we're affording one of those 2 certificates at no cost to the individual while they're a senior in high school. Just to get one of those certificates at ACC is going to cost you upwards of $4,000 to $5,000. We then, as a fire district, offer them a follow-on immediately after graduation. It's called our internship program. Our internship program lasts about 4 to 5 months. It's at no cost to the student. They do not get paid as an intern, but they do receive a stipend. And they get to earn over that period of the internship the alternate certificate. So that at the end of the internship, they are then able to be fully employed, not only by the fire district here in Pflugerville, but by, again, anybody across the state of Texas that is looking for a certified firefighter. So that's kind of the steps to getting towards
Realistically,
employment.
will a department hire an 18-year-old kid?
Yes.
That's got both of those?
Yes, we just did. Our first success will be exhibited tomorrow evening at the school district. Garrett Lamar and Alyssa Nathanson are both part of our first class at Hendrickson, and they were both hired in January. So they both came through the program as a senior, received their fire certification, came through our internship program, earned their EMT certification, and we hired them straight in.
Of the 18, how many of them stuck with the program to get that second step?
To get the second step, out of the 18, we had 6. So we're 6 in the internship program that decided to move on. What we do find, and I'll be straight up with you, most of our high school students that pursue the EMT side of this program are looking to be an MD or an RN or something else in the medical field. And this is just an opportunity to move them forward. It's a resume builder and so on and so forth. But I would say probably about half of our EMTs are serious about going on and becoming an EMT in our communities.
And I'm sorry I'm hogging everything.
That's okay.
But I have a 17-year-old, and this is fascinating. A 17 who has no direction whatsoever.
Here you go. We want to hire him as a firefighter.
So, I mean, realistically, when we're talking to people about putting money into this, an 18, 19-year-old that does both of this, what is a starting pay for?
Starting pay for a firefighter right now in our district is $50,000. Once they receive their paramedic certification, which is typically, it's not going to happen much before year 2 or 3 as far as their employment with our organization. That's another $9,000 to $10,000 on top of the annual. We provide a certification pay to the tune of $10,000 a year for maintaining their paramedic certification.
And my last question, I promise. Do big departments like Austin or Houston or Dallas, are they going to hire somebody that comes through this? Or are they going to require them to go back through their own academy? Kind of like on the police side, they won't take somebody out of the
Right.
regional training center.
I will tell you, it is tradition in the fire service that no matter where you come through, as far as the fire academy and earn your certifications, they will have you go through a local program, just so you understand their equipment, their way of doing business. We do it as well. So the young men and women that we just hired last month are finishing up the end of this month, in fact, the end of this week, their recruit academy. So they just spent the last 6 weeks going through what it is to be a firefighter for Travis County ESD number 2, Pflugerville Fire Department, understanding our equipment, our processes, our procedures. So that's typical for most departments, but once you have both these certificates, you're hireable in any department across the state.
So let me kind of ask or have you emphasize 2 little points. First of all, is this certificate portable throughout Texas? And second, is there some expiration to it?
It is portable. Again, they are state certificates. One from the Texas Commission on Fire Protection, and then the medical is from the Department of State Health Services. They must be, there are CEUs that are required of firefighters over periods of time. I can't explicitly tell you what the time period is, but they do expire at some point, yes. And I believe it's somewhere between around a 24, but don't necessarily quote me on that. I think it's a 24-month period.
Good, thank you.
I just want to add that the PCDC would be, dispersing the matching grant. But based on the program with the state of Texas, through the Texas Workforce Commission, it must be high demand. So the funding that we would be using would go into the school district for their use, the equipment and anything we purchase, it would be under our administration. And they would utilize that equipment, whether it's consumable or whether it is actually equipment, et cetera. But it can only be utilized for the high demand job. So while there is benefit for the fire training as well, because part of that is medic, we have to focus on that medic in terms of what we can do from the funding side of the house. But it is a big thing for the school district, but also the ESD, because a lot of the equipment, the ESD is now actually providing in order to train in the ISD, and the ISD does not have any of their own kinds of equipment, even the consumables, the training manuals, et cetera. So for us to fund this portion of it, a lot of the training equipment and information, et cetera, is transferable over to the fire department as well, so they can utilize it more than once in different ways. We're even looking at a way to potentially, in the future, make this portable through a portable teaching vehicle that could be transported between the school districts, again, focused on that medic career path towards medical, but definitely has an upside for firemen and training in that and the like as well. So Tracy's here today. Tracy, would you like to talk just a few minutes? Tracy is the CTE, that's Career Technology Education Director at ISD. And she's been brought into this kind of at the very end of it, but she's gotten up to speed because we got so excited. Yeah, that's right. And we had a big meeting, and we've got some photos of that and everything. But of course, we're excited to be able to work with the ISD in a program like this, and because we are on a short timeline to get this application in by the 6th of March, we've really appreciated Tracy stepping in and saying that she's willing to work with us to get this grant done. Tracy?
Well, I appreciate the time and everything that Mr. Humphrey's done, and then y'all's support as well, especially on such short notice. But we are very excited to partner with this. It's our hope that as we move through the program, the ISD can take on a little bit more responsibility as far as the equipment, instructor, and so forth, because we are heavily reliant on the ESD, and they do a lot more than just us. And so we need to free up some of their resources. And it is a equipment intensive program, and so with limited funding available to school districts, it becomes a challenge to provide that for ourselves. But this is an opportunity to kind of have that become a reality much faster than we could potentially do on our own. And I mean, he spoke very eloquently about what the results have been, and we've been very excited. And tomorrow night we'll recognize the 2 students who were successful at being hired on, and we were very proud that one of them was a female, because we know that was a goal. It is a non-traditional field for females, and so we were excited to see that participation and then her success entering the field. So it's a popular program at the high school level. We're doing what we can to continue the promotion of that program and working closely with the fire staff to support them as they continue to support us as we offer it to the students.
One other thing I would bring to the board's attention is the fact that while the funding comes through us, we don't give the money to the school district. So we go out, we buy the equipment, we buy the supplies, whatever it is. Until the end of the term of the grant, which I believe is April of 2020, we would inventory, track all of the items. But after that, at that point, then we would be able to then transfer the ownership of that and donate that over to the ISD for their continuing education program. And the ESD would, of course, have those at their disposal. And so from a standpoint of really utilizing public dollar in a really, really carefully crafted way, I don't think we could find a better way to do that and expand our pipeline for workforce in this community. And working with the 2 partners that we have with the ISD and the ESD, coupled with the Texas Workforce Solutions Board, as well as TWC, Texas Workforce Commission, I think we've got a project here, gentlemen.
So we would be putting $150,000, Texas Workforce Commission or somebody else would match that.
Correct.
We would buy approximately $300,000 worth of stuff for y'all to use while you're training, is basically what you're asking.
Yes.
And where would that, as he so eloquently put it, stuff reside?
Right.
Well, it'd be at their location. We're not going to keep
It
it.
would
No, I mean,
physically-
would it be at Hendrickson?
That's
Would
one
it
of the
be?
things, that's
my
exactly
closet.
right. So that's one of the things that Tracy's going to be challenged with is where does she put all that stuff?
And who is going to continue the accountability of all
So-
of that wonderful stuff?
Right, and so just to make sure we clearly understand, the funds that the PCDC would put forward, which is half of the funds, would be then managed and overseen by your organization as a corporation until the end of the grant period, which is next year. The other half of the funds, Workforce Solutions Board, is responsible for doing the exact same thing. So Texas Workforce Commission provides the funds to Workforce Solutions Board, who then in turn is responsible for acquiring the equipment and the materials and providing that to the school district. So your piece of the pie, so to speak, your half of the pie is managed by you over the first 12 months, however long it takes for us to acquire and provide before the end of the grant period. At the end of the grant period, you have a choice. You don't have to, but you have a choice to formally turn over the equipment and basically grant it or donate it to the school district at that point in time. The school district would then take ownership of the property. One of the things that Tracy is mentioned, I don't want to speak for Tracy, but she's willing and she understands that there's a lot of there's a lot of management, administration behind trying to keep track of what's where and that sort of thing. So she said that between her and her staff, they'll be able to afford and assist in the process of making sure that inventories are taken according to the grant requirements and that reports are made and so on and so forth in support of the equipment not only the PCDC provides, but that the Workforce Solutions Board provides.
Who does the instruction, in-class instruction?
The ESD provides that instruction right now, and we will continue to do that.
So that's basically going to continue to be the ESD's skin in the game.
Correct.
They're no longer, maybe not put money into it, but now you're still going to be there doing all of the
Correct.
hands-on
Yes, we will still provide all the technical oversight and the guidance and the instruction. This really affords the school district to have, quote unquote, as you've said, Mr. Coleman, skin in the game, and afford them the opportunity to have the equipment and the things that they need in order to make this successful long term.
And has this only been going on 1 year?
We're in our second year.
Okay.
It also actually provides a little more sustainability for the program. If they do have the equipment and everything, it really does provide for other opportunities as well down the road.
Right.
So we felt like, it was a great opportunity for the PCDC. We've been trying to figure out a way to do this for a long time, and we're really looking forward to it. It would require a couple things of the board. We would send in the application, and supposing that we do get the award, and we are rushing to the table with this because they've had so many applications this year that we're afraid they're going to run out of funding before we can get our application in and get ours granted. So that's why March 6th was recommended by the Texas Workforce Commission representative we've been working with. So right now, we are budgeted for $50,000 for workforce development in our budget. This would require a budget amendment. We would need to come back to you in March in order to do that, in order to complete the grant, should we get the award. In the meantime, that would likely go to City Council for final approval, so we would try to push that from here over to the council as quickly as possible. So that's kind of our plan. We're hoping to hear back. I think they said it was about a 2 to 3 week process of letting us know about the grant award, and so we would be prepared to begin taking action. This evening, we're not asking for action, just simply we're going to move forward on this unless we have any other desire by the board.
I just need to clarify, I don't know that I got my question answered quite the way I wanted it. Will this equipment be used to expand the program at Hendrickson, or will it be used to expand the program to other campuses?
So that's an excellent question, and actually the program is open to all the high school campuses currently. So it's a program where students can come from, Weiss not yet because they're not seniors, but they will have seniors this year. But we currently have students from Conley, Pflugerville, and Hendrickson participating in the Fire Academy. So they provide their own transportation to Hendrickson in the morning for the courses, and then they participate in the skills trainings with the other Hendrickson Fire Academy students on Saturdays when they schedule those. So it's currently open to all high school campuses in Pflugerville.
Okay, but physically located at
Physically located at
Hendrickson.
Hendrickson, that's
Okay.
correct. Because that's where we have the best temporary solution for space. We've got a really large classroom there that accommodates the equipment that we would need. And then we've also have approval from the principal to have a pad installed with a permanent training structure as well.
All right.
Fire tool.
Just to help you understand my concern, I know we want to focus on Pflugerville. I think our funds can really only be spent in Pflugerville or within the ETJ. So as long as we're not locating equipment outside of the city limits, outside over Connolly is obviously Austin. We run into some technical issues there, so I want to make sure we're as kosher as can be.
In this particular program, the way it works, the Texas Workforce Commission requires, that it provide employment for the greater area, which this would. So when we're training initially in this program, it will be Pflugerville. But after that, once we donate the equipment, it can be utilized in other schools, but it still meets our requirement as well as the TWC's requirement.
You said something earlier that caught my interest. You said that this money would have to be concentrating on the medic or the EMT side. Is firefighting not considered a high-demand job?
No, it is not at this time, and it's not been identified by the state. Now, that doesn't mean that it won't be, because Rob and I have talked about that. And we feel like we could press the issue a little bit on it, and, what we have to do is file it, and then have them look at it, and then they have to designate it. And they do have the authority to do that. Outside of those that are designated in the state, they can get a smaller scope. And so our plan is to try to do that in the near future, but it would not be done prior to our application for this grant.
Is this, and maybe it's a hybrid, you said that on the EMT side, most of the kids are really using it as a resume builder to move up.
About
On the
half of
fire
them are,
side,
yes.
I would consider it much more of a vocational
Correct.
program. So is this
Correct.
kind of a hybrid vocational college preparedness class? And so you've got kids at very different levels, because some of those EMT wannabe MDs are going to be at the top level, and you're going to have some of those kids at the fire side, I'm assuming, and hopefully I'm not saying anything out of turn, that aren't real sure what they want to do, but they know they don't want to go to college.
Sure.
That they want to get a job relatively quickly.
Right. And so this affords them that opportunity. They can either track through the EMT program or they can track through the fire program. So it's really on the individual, and obviously with parental counsel and support, they decide which track they want to be in. Back to Mr. Weiss's question earlier, the EMT basic, the program, that track is being hosted by the fire district right now. We host it on our campus, the central campus down there at Railroad and Pecan in our education center. So the students come to our campus 3 days 1 week, 2 days the following week, so there's alternate. So it's 5 days over 2 weeks that they're on our campus for almost a half a day, going through the EMT portion of our program.
This seems to be very innovative. Is this something that the ESD stole, or is it something y'all created?
We actually created it to the point where AFD and a handful of the other heavyweights in the state, as well as it's being recognized right now by some other states. We've got a couple fire departments in Florida asking us about how this program came together. But we could only do it with the cooperation of the school district.
That makes a Pflugervillian proud. Congratulations.
It's an excellent program.
Comment, I guess. The comment is, interestingly, this particular development program could expand into sort of a business training focused on EMD and ESD and fire. So I think that's really interesting. I'm understanding this grant is really for stuff. You apparently need the grant to buy enough stuff to kind of jumpstart the program and get it going. And once you have this, you can replace things as they need age out over time. So this will help you get the program really to the level you need it.
Yes, it can. And just so you're aware, the bunker gear, the physical gear that would be used for the training is one of the areas that we're looking at real hard. That typically has a lifespan of about 7 years in the fire world because it's exposed to chemicals and things like that when it's in active, fire scenes. Obviously, from a student perspective, it's going to last a whole lot longer because they won't be in physical scenes like that. I mean, they do live fire training, but it's controlled, and they're not exposed to chemicals like a typical firefighter would be if they were rushing into a building. So we expect that those, the bunker gear itself is probably going to last upward of a decade or more, depending on how it's used and how the students treated over a period of time.
So the one-time grant is really going to be
It will.
the program started.
I could confidently tell you that some of the equipment will probably last a good 10 years.
My second question, this is focused on students who are in the high schools, right? What about older young adults
or whatever, folks who might be interested and they're already out of school? Is there a flavor of this for them?
There is, and that's called our internship program.
Okay.
Right now, as I expressed earlier, our internship program, as you see stratified here, affords those individuals post secondary education to come in and go through about a 5-month program to earn their certificates needed in order to be hired as a firefighter in the state of Texas. Right now, we're kind of in what I'll call a walk mode. We're affording them the opportunity to earn one of those certificates. Long-term, our strategy is to provide them the opportunity to earn both certificates at the same time. There's a little bit of heavy lifting there. So there's got to be someone that's very determined and interested in pursuing that option. But that is the option. Again, our goal in the ESD is not only to go after and work towards the human resources that we need to fill the organization against our unemployment rate that we have right now, but Chief Mullenberg has made it very clear within the organization the strategy of our long-term staffing plan is that the district needs to look like the community. And the only way we can get the district to look like the community is to afford a process that allows a citizen that's down on Main Street that has absolutely no experience and no certification the opportunity to walk in the front door and to go through a program that prepares them, and vets them, and certifies them at the state level, and then allows them to be employed.
And that was one of the necessary boxes we need to be able to check to access the funds through the Workforce Commission. These folks that are going through the EMT programs can also go to private. And I know Rob said it earlier, but that was a big emphasis on the other possibilities for people who are completing the EMT.
Right. Locally, we have 2 privates that operate in our area between Travis and Williamson County, and that's AMR and Acadian. You've probably seen those ambulances. So they're both also looking for these types of individuals.
And they would also be eligible for hire at our new hospital.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Back to you in March with this.
Dr. Humphreys, thank you very much.
Thank you
for your time.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Good presentation. All right, backing up a little bit, we'll go back to 6B.
We have another guest with the Incubator EDU program.
I thought she was here for.
She was here for that, but she's also here for the, no, I guess not. They were
All
not.
right,
I'm sorry.
To
My apologies.
continue.
I'm talking 8A.
2019-7378, discussion and update on FM 685 Town Center Drive intersection improvements for the PCDC Water Park.
I'm going to be really, really brief on this. Basically, I just wanted you to know that we continue to work on the entrance into the water park off of FM 685. We're staying in touch with our consultant. The project management is going along just really well. We have executed our donation agreement as of last month. We've met with TxDOT and gone over the design process. We don't anticipate any surprises. They totally understand what we're doing and have given preliminary approvals. We met in the field at the park with AT&T to look at relocation of utility AT&T lines that could potentially need to be relocated. And that could come at an additional cost for us depending, but our early investigation shows that we have 2 lines that are 42 and one that's 42 inches deep and another that's 50 inches deep that would not be disturbed with any of our excavation and expansion in that area. And the third copper wire that's out there, we're waiting to hear from them on as to the depth. The other thing that we're looking at to offset having to relocate those utilities and therefore have, some savings and less construction is to potentially narrow the width of the lane to 11 feet. It's a slight decrease overall, and TxDOT is looking at that, and there's a good chance that they will allow that as well. They don't have any issue with it at this point. So the next steps are then to coordinate further with AT&T on the utility lines, and then we'll move forward with our next actions. As you know, this project does not begin construction until after the park closes in September and must be completed prior to the park opening in May. So we have a window we have to hit, and so we're staying on top of this and project managing it with our consultant. Are there any questions? So far, no surprises, so that's a good thing. I have nothing further.
No questions, then we will move on. Item 6D on the agenda, 2019-7375, discussion on the PCDC 2019 quarterly calendar. For the executive director.
Yes, sir. I would take any questions in the interest of time this evening. We do have some other items, but I would take any questions on our quarterly calendar, which I can't find, but I'm sure it's in here. There it is. I found it. Sorry. We're busy, that's for sure. And this doesn't have everything that we're actually doing in terms of meetings and such, but we do have a real busy quarter coming up, so.
And the only note you had was about the veterans recognition that the city's doing. You sent the link out about that.
Yes, it's a really great program, sponsored by the city, of trying to find veterans who want to tell their story, or they want to tell stories of their relatives or friends that are veterans. And the library is collecting all the information. We did send it out to the board for them to be able to send in their candidates. And if they do, then the library is collecting those as part of this youth program that the school, that the city is sponsoring. So it's a really great opportunity for us to show recognition to our veterans who have done so much for our country. And that's all I have.
Is there any questions about the agenda? Any comments, any additions? Very well. There being none, let's move on. We have 6E, 2019-7376, discussion and presentation on the PCDC fiscal year 2019 first quarter report.
Mr. President, I'd just like to comment that this is going to be the first time that I'm not going to say a word about the quarterly report. And all my staff is going to give the results.
Outstanding.
Except for this, and then that's it.
Okay, quarter one report is October 1st through December 31st. I think you know those people. That's you guys. Our report highlights, each of us will take a little piece of this. So the quarter one board actions, we had quite a few to note. The library grant, Typhoon, Texas, text pool established, and the 685 consulting contract. Those were the big ones in the quarter one. And here's where we are financially. Our debt service reserve is at 1.4 million. Our banking, as you can see, our text pool, even though it wasn't in your financial report, this is updated as of now. This is where we're at. Our incentives are over $1 million, 163, and then our infrastructure projects stand at 47 million. Oh, this is exciting. We have just submitted, our Advanced Economic Development Organization application, which I think was over 100 and, I don't know, like a ton of documents. And they received that today, so we're really excited about that. The next step is they have a committee that will review it through the IEDC, and then they'll contact Amy with any follow-up questions they may have, and then they're going to be on site, and they'll reach out to the board and some other community members and do some interviews and things of that nature. So stay tuned for more on that exciting development. As you know, this is our SEDS timeline. You may have seen this when we did our workshop. And currently, we're down here with our RFQs, which you'll hear a little bit more about tonight. And this is our current SEDS 1.0, and as you can see, we're pretty much done with this one. There's 3 future actions, and Amy can give you some more information about those, but those will be rolled in and probably reviewed for our 2.0.
What, excuse me,
Yeah.
what's under future actions?
Those were the 3 that were regarding that bond election that just happened, the higher education one. And so those are the 3 that are the 3 future.
Yeah, we basically set those aside until we knew what the election was going to bring as to how we would move forward. And as she said, those will be rolled into our 2.0 as opposed to trying to complete them prior.
Yep. And then, sorry, I went backwards, let me go forwards. And then, of course, you guys saw this at the workshop. This is where we're at with our benchmarks. We went through this in detail before. This is just a refresher for you. And that's really all I have. Now, Matt, you want to come up and talk about marketing?
So before we go on, Amy, do you have any concerns with the SEDS 2.0 and the IEDC basically about the same time?
No, I don't, because we will have the ultimate selection of when they come to the community, and we can work it around when it's convenient. And most of those interviews and things are going to be with people that are outside of our office, and then there'll be some interviews with staff. They're only here for, I think it's a full 3 days, so it's not real intense. But I do feel that the logistics of it and making sure the scheduling is, is coordinated with the other activity we have going on is going to be a concern, but I think it's very doable.
All right, so we were actually really busy last quarter, and then throw in the holidays in there, and it was pretty hard to get all this in. So some of the big key highlights that went on, we had the Texas Workforce Commission How to Hire Veterans Conference in Houston. It was myself, Christian, Jerry, and Jan Tyler from Best Western went, and it was a conference that I think we've talked about it in the past. We presented it to you. That talked about best practices for how to hire veterans, some of the unique challenges that are there for veteran benefits and HR practices and things like that. So it was actually a really good conference. And then why Texas transitioning military into the workforce, I believe that was Jerry down in San Antonio, went to that. Some of the key events, we had the Rotary Golf Club, the intercity tours where we took everybody up to Frisco and McKinney, and that was a really fun trip. We had the employee appreciation by Zaxby's. They came to our parking lot, had a food truck, and for all the city employees, we invited everybody over to come get some free chicken. So that was a fun afternoon. And then we had our holiday appreciation luncheon. We sent it out to all our business contacts, invited them over here, and we had Panera, I think, catered. And it was a good chance for a networking opportunity for everybody that came and got to meet everybody. And it was just our way of saying thank you to the community and the businesses that we've worked with. The ribbon cuttings, we had Accident Food Services. And then, like I said, we've been pretty busy with the trade shows, conferences, and marketing trips. IEDC, TEDC, the Advanced Economic Leadership Program that Amy attended. And she also went to the Opportunity Austin, New York, and New Jersey marketing trips. And I believe Jerry went to the Fab Tech marketing trip, and then Atlanta. So all over the place this past quarter, but we've done a lot of good work and made a lot of contacts out of that. So real happy we were able to do that. So advertising and marketing side, we this quarter or for the November issue, this was the ad that we placed, and then on the other side is what it was placed next to. It was in Site Selection Magazine. Again, it's about 47,000 readers. And then in the January edition that just came out, we had our Fab 4 article that we sent out. If you haven't seen it, we can definitely get you a copy. And it discussed the 4 women of leadership in Pflugerville and how they're kind of changing the game. And so that was a really cool article, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback on that, especially on social media. And then even Site Selection said that that was a really good article, and they've been seeing a lot of activity with it. For web statistics, some of the things we've been working on was just kind of redeveloping the content. The website has been pulled over multiple generations now, and so the content may not be as fresh as it needs to be. So we're slowly trying to work through that and get the content updated. One of the big things that we've been working on is a business first redesign. I know when I came on board back in June, the board really wanted to push for having more resources, especially on the veteran side. And so we've been working really hard with that, and Christian's been heading that up to kind of push that along. And so what has happened is, I will give you a sneak peek if I can get out of this.
That's excellent.
It is not live yet. We're still working on it, but Amy did want me to show you at least what it looks like so that you get an idea of what we're doing. Let's see if I type that in right. There we go. So it has a similar feel to the current homepage. We have the rotating banners, but they're all business first related. So immediately you're given veteran resources, business resources. We have the LinkedIn search capability that we've integrated into the website. And so that's highlighted. And then the resource directory that we have. So if you scroll down, it talks about what is business first. You have your links here. And since I know veteran resources was a big one, it talks about some of the things that we can help veterans with. And then if we don't have those answers, we've outlined a good resource of everything from Travis-Williamson County to the state, and then even all the way up to national resources. And if they can't even find what they're looking for there, certainly we will still help them out and try and find an answer, or at least put them in touch with somebody who might know the answer. So that's just kind of a preview of what will happen once you click on the business first. Right now, if you click on it, it's very centralized and there's not a whole lot there. So we're trying to expand it out and flesh it out and have a lot more information there for people to use. So press releases that have gone out in this past quarter was obviously the library grant and the Typhoon, Texas Amendment. The really big and cool thing that we had was the Boomtown video. If you haven't seen that, we can send it out again. It may be something we push out on social media again since it's been a little bit. That came out right before Halloween, I believe. And it looked at Pflugerville and Hutto and the expansion that we've had. And it was a really good interview with Mr. Wilkie.
Yes.
And then Amy as well, and it talks about the explosive growth that's going on in Pflugerville. So it was a really cool video segment that Kate, you did.
Yeah, could you send that back out to us? I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I'll send that out. And then that leads us into the Business First program.
And I just want to mention about the Business First resource that's on the website that will be going live. The veterans in particular, but all the stuff on there is going to be evolving. It'll be living, breathing. We'll be able to change it once it's up. But we wanted to be perfect, and Amy's been pushing us to work as a team. So all of us have been part of all of this. It's not just me working on the Business First program. It's been everybody here working on the Business First program. Amy is central to pretty much everything here, and I appreciate all the help that she's given me throughout this with the Business First program, and Jerry and Matt and Crystal. It's been fantastic. I really appreciate it. I also want to point out this is not a BRE meeting, but these were the meetings that we set up. Ken had asked us to set up some meetings where it was an opportunity for the board to meet some of the businesses in town. We'd like to continue doing this. Ken was the only participant we had in the two that we did have, and I think they were fantastic, but I think they're a good model for what we can do. I'd like to do this at least quarterly. I know a lot of business owners that would love to get in front of you guys and get to know you a little bit better and talk to you about what we do, but specifically what they need us to do for them. I get to hear it, but it'd be good for you guys to hear it too. I think, Ken, did you feel like they were a good use of our time?
I want to make sure that they knew that, hey, look, we're here, we have an agreement with you, we want to continue to be part of it, and the board's here for you. That was a goal of this, and to be better, have better understanding as a board. So, it's not, it was that continual relationship with our businesses that you have, but they want to make sure that they feel coming to us. So, obviously, your new president, if you want to continue that, that's up to you.
Okay. This is Gerald Hutchinson from Medway Plastics, and I think he was really glad to get to meet Ken at this particular meeting. I know they'd met before, but this was a good opportunity to see what they did. Jerry went with us. But you kind of see, this is more of an outline about what we do when we go out there. And the reason why you won't see a lot of names in here is because it is sensitive information, and we want to be able to keep talking to these folks, so you won't hear specific names unless they tell us we can use their information. And I'll emphasize the workforce training needs. Most of the conversations we had earlier about our participation with the ESD and PFISD for this particular grant that we're working on is part of all of this. This is what this is intended to do. Getting into the metrics, and you've seen this, you saw this in our presentation, but more than 54% are at 10 or more, and 40% are less than. It's a good strata. I'm not talking to big businesses, I'm talking to both. And most of what I consider are very hard and fast employers in town usually have anywhere from 5 to 40 employees. So those are the ones I talk to most of the time. Top concerns, this is the first time we saw this with any measure, was the Travis County appraisals, how much they'd gone up and how that affected all the businesses around. We had heard a little bit about the public transportation, but that's usually very small on the list. We heard more repeated information about that. Business survey is the next step. We've been working on it and kind of factoring in all the things that were asked for the program itself and from the businesses themselves, and we'll be sending that out within a month. These are our development partners, and you'll see that as we go further, we get more and more. Go Big Texas was added on here, the PEC, the Pflugerville Employment Coalition. What are the new ones that are on here?
Workforce Solutions.
Workforce Solutions, yes. As we put all the pieces together, you'll see more names pop up here too, because this is a big part. I think we're missing a couple more, but we'll factor those in as well. I think that's it for me. Is it Crystal? No, that is me.
Jerry.
On the recruitment side, we kind of had, for quarter one, we had site visits, and site visits can be anyone from just walking into the office and kind of asking for information, kind of asking, what do you have as far as lands availability, things of that sort, or a phone call from someone that says, I want to talk to someone about, whether you have this type of a building or land or anything like that. It can also be someone that actually walks in, or a prospect that's coming in as well. It can be a site visit, it can be a prospect, or it can be both, and sometimes the site visits will outweigh the prospects. So there's kind of goes back and forth.
Jerry, can I just comment real
Sure.
quick on that? So if they come once, that's great. If they come twice.
Twice? It's
That's
better.
even better. They come 3 times, maybe we nail them.
That's right.
So when we look at site visits, repeated visits are important. That's all.
Yep. And it is, because it shows that they're
Their
interested.
interest,
They're
yes,
interested.
correct.
As far as outreach, I believe probably Amy could answer that a little bit better, because it's kind of some of the public speakings that we've done around the area. Okay, project activity. These are some of our prospect leads, and some of our successful on the last quarter was obviously Typhoon Texas. That turned out much better than anybody had ever anticipated. So kudos to Amy there. As far as prospect leads total for the quarter, we had 16. Of those, we still have 10 that are active, 6 that were eliminated. And of the total 16, 11 were RFPs, or requests for proposals, that came from Opportunity Austin. The rest can be categorized as someone who just walked in and said, hey, I've got a project, or I've got something that I want to talk to you about, or a realtor calling in and saying, I've got someone who's looking for some land, and is looking at Pflugerville. So it doesn't necessarily have to, fall into one category, but in the next slide, you'll see what kind of projects we may be looking at. And some of the elimination reasons are, obviously, we don't have a shovel-ready property, or we don't have a vacant piece of building, or rail. We get some that say it has to be close to a rail station. And obviously, one is no mass transit.
Let me ask you a question about that. What was their concern about mass transit here? Were they looking for something specific, or just?
They usually are looking for a spot where the bus is going to drop them off. And how close is that drop off to a site they may be looking for? So if they're looking at our site, okay, where's the nearest bus stop. And if it's a mile away or 2 miles away, and in this case, we don't have a bus stop anywhere close by, then it kind of precludes them setting up shop here, especially if some of their workforce is coming from, say, South Austin or East Austin, where they rely on that kind of transportation.
Good, thank you.
We currently do have, and I'm sorry, I kind of missed out on that one. We do have 50 active projects right now. So we added those 10 to the ones we had before, right?
52.
52, okay, 52, that's right. As far as what kind of projects, we have one project, as you can see here, that is a headquarters, and kind of in comparison to F18 quarter one and F19 quarter one. We had 5 in first quarter of 18. We have 1 for this first quarter. We had 12 manufacturing, we had 8. Professional tech services, we had 5 prior to this time. Supply chain, 4, and then 2. And we had others, 7 and 3. Other can be anything outside of our regular targeted industries. So that's kind of how we kind of put it in that section. And professional services could be an insurance company, an accounting company, something along those lines. Manufacturing can be anything from food processing to a CNC machining or a 3D printer. So as far as success, of course, last year we had 3, we had 1, and then active and RFPs and eliminated. Does anyone have any questions?
You're not done.
I'm not done?
Keep going.
Keep going, do this one? Okay.
Sure.
Out of 18 projects for FY 2019, Typhoon Texas had expansions of 4.5 million. Obviously, we got released from a PCDC reserve, so that kind of was very nice. Typhoon Texas is also a $500,000 minimum investment in the year-round restaurant, which we're all looking forward to, and I think will add much more for our year-round opportunities. A $3 million investment for new rides. Obviously, the extension of FM 685 is going to be wonderful I think for everyone, not just for them, but for that whole area there. Of course, our successes for 2018, Costco's, EOS of North America, Spirit of Texas, Essentium, the ARC, or Austin Regional Clinic, and obviously our real nice building over there, Baylor, Scott and White. And then we've added some more square footage to our area, which helps us a lot when we're talking to someone, which is Heather Wild 45, and then Springbrook, and then I won't talk about IGX at the moment. And so for 2017, of course, we had Accent, MW Builders right across the street from this beautiful building. Flooring Services, RTI Manufacturing, Typhoon Texas, the Marriott, which is quite nice, Cortec, and Community Impact too.
Okay, I'll take it from here. So again, this is our quarterly report that is required through, our bylaws and what we send to council. We bring it to the PCDC board first and then send it over to city, and we'll be sending this over probably this evening or first thing in the morning. The next steps of what we're looking at, of course, are the SEDS 2.0 marketing and strategic plan. It's actually a comprehensive economic development strategic plan where we have a more laser focus on marketing. So it's actually not a marketing strategic plan, so that's a misnomer. We'll have to fix that. SH 130 Economic Summit, which we've been talking about as part of our SEDS 1.0. We're trying to figure out when we're going to work that in this year. And then the high demand job training grant you heard about. Working with Pflugerville Employment Coalition, we have some other potential projects for job fairs and such that are coming through our Business First program. Parks and Rec Challenge Grant, which we're going to talk about this evening and hopefully get taken care of. And then the accredited EDO Phase 2, which means they're coming on campus to actually take a look at us and talk to some of our partners in the community. Next slide.
That's it.
Okay, so that's it. That's it for our quarterly report.
Can I make any suggestions?
Sure.
I know you get it out, but
Go ahead.
that's all. So a couple of them. One is for the highlights. something that we did new this quarter, we didn't talk about at all, was we have had those 3 nonprofits that came in.
Good idea.
So maybe in
Yeah.
your advertising or marketing or somewhere there in your section, if you could just add the
Excellent
ones we
idea.
did bring in, these 3, because that's new this quarter, that the council doesn't necessarily know about. The other ones is key highlight and events. Consider the Heroes Make, the 2 trips we had to Fort Hood. Specifically, I would highlight the Pflugerville Employment Commission, or whatever the heck we're calling ourselves now. Coalition, that we're all working together, and that other trip that we had to Fort Hood together
Okay.
would be one on last quarter that's pretty good, because it shows how we're working together. That was last quarter.
Quarter one.
Well, that was the second one. That was the mega job fair was in January, but the first meeting that we had all together was last quarter. All right,
So let's
that's a big deal of all of us as a community working together. That's sort of unique.
That's a
We
very
have the
good point.
ISD, the Education Foundation,
PCDC
everyone else
is a
working. That's
big
unique to
part
us.
of the employment
Got it.
coalition.
Thank you, Ken, and if staff would address those things, and then let's do one more wrap-up before we send it over to the city. We do this email, so it doesn't have to meet any deadlines for this evening. Thank you, Ken.
Yep, so the nonprofits, the Heroes Make, and the other PEC one specifically to Fort Hood.
Got it. Good.
Other comments, questions? Okay, we're gonna move on. We'll, which, I thought we were going here first.
Okay.
We're gonna skip over to discuss on action, section 8A, 2019-7391. Discuss and consider action regarding a community challenge grant request from the city of Pflugerville not to exceed $100,000, presented by Emily Barron, Planning Director. Welcome to you, Emily.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for having me and putting us on the agenda this evening. We have an exciting project that we're undertaking at the city, and I'm here to introduce it to you and ask that it be your challenge grant this year. It's a project we call Main Street Plaza Palooza. It is our first of, we hope, many public community engagement projects. At the last city council meeting, they passed a resolution for us to host an annual community engagement project. They won't all be of this scale, and they haven't all been selected, but we'll be taking on this endeavor on an annual basis, and we're very excited about it. Our first one is Main Street Plaza Palooza. It is a community-inspired art walk for the property located right next to City Hall at 100 East Main Street. You can see kind of that grassy way that's between City Hall and Hanover's. We are going to revitalize that space and hopefully make a public space, a gathering area, a place for people to actually have something to do instead of just walk through the grass, which isn't very inviting. We also think that creating something here will not only help the businesses in the community, but it kind of ties them all together. And so our project here is taking place in April. It's proposed to take place on the 26th and 27th of April as a community build. That's the engagement part. It is being designed primarily by our city teams. And so this here was an original sketch. This project had come to consideration a few years ago and never got off the ground. And so we've kind of taken this as a foundation. We're tweaking it a little bit to make it a little more, provide more art, provide more interaction for the community. And so you'll see things more like murals, some more interactive musical instruments, tables and chairs, a walkway that we hope will provide a lot of engagement and interaction for our residents. And so this is generally kind of what our hopes are, kind of a mock-up of that original design with some artboards thrown in there. And you can kind of see where the space is located. We do intend to also have it available during the nighttime too, to encourage that nightlife through the downtown. So that we get the office workers, like city staff that are down there, as well as those who visit the new restaurants, coffee bars, and bars in downtown. On the 26th, April is National Volunteer Month. That's why we selected it. On the 26th, city staff will be undergoing our service project. All city departments will be participating in the actual kind of foundation components of the project. And then on the 27th, we're inviting the community out to help us complete the park and do a block party on Main Street. We'll be closing that off having food trucks and some other fun pieces that we hope that the community will enjoy. And so we're asking this evening for the PCDC to support your challenge grant this year, our Main Street Plaza Palooza, and the creation of our art park.
Thank you, Emily. I was just going to make a couple comments for the board. We have a couple new members on the board, and for their benefit as well as for the refresher for the rest, we set aside $100,000 this year in our budget in order to support public parks and recreation. Per the 4B law, we are allowed, as a 4B corporation, to be able to spend those funds specifically on parks and rec as long as they are public areas and can be accessed by the public. This obviously fits that description, so we do have the funding available. The other thing, Emily has also completed the application for what we call a challenge grant. Challenge grants are that while we put up a certain amount of money, that they are also investing either time, labor, and or other dollars that would match that effort. And in this case, it's obvious that that is going to happen. So we're asking for approval this evening so that the project can get underway, and she can answer any questions related to the project itself. But we've already discussed this, and it has been approved from our budget perspective.
I would also like to add that I think I would be remiss not to say that we are reaching out to a variety of community partners. As you've seen here this evening, in your previous items, which is wonderful, the collaboration that occurs between either the ESD and the ISD like you had earlier. We've already reached out to Lions, the Rotary. We'll be reaching out to Knights of Columbus, the Downtown Business Association, American Legion. And so they were trying to make it a wholly community engagement of all of our community partners.
Is the Arts Council involved?
We've not reached out to the arts councils. I'm not sure they were formally together, and so if that is something that would be a great group to work with.
We've also encouraged the city to utilize the $100,000 that we would put through this challenge grant to challenge the other participants to match.
I have a question about the artwork. Is this going to be a fixed piece forever, or is it going to be rotating with new artists, new pieces as time goes along?
So we're still in conversations about that particular element of the art walk. We were hoping to have a lot of the high school art programs participate in that element of the art walk. Unfortunately, that's the same weekend where they have their vase competition, and so that has put that element up in the air a little bit. I think there is opportunity to have some rotating artwork through there. We hope that this is just kind of the first step in having more art throughout the community, not only in kind of the visual arts, but the opportunity to have music or performing art spaces in other areas.
I would hope that you would encourage our local artist community, which is rather large, to participate in this. Yes. And to, if not outright donate, at least provide some sculptures, some artworks and things that can be displayed there for the entire community. Yes. To appreciate.
Absolutely.
So April 26th is quick.
Yes.
Are you relocating AC units and stuff like that? And how, if you got a one-day build for the city staff, how are you? I've seen a lot of city projects. I've never seen one done in 2 days.
Right. So it's on the calendar a day. It's kind of the event of the Plaza Palooza.
Okay.
Obviously, we're going to have to contract for the sidewalk to get pulled. That should be done in the end of March. And our Public Works will be doing a lot of the kind of ground preparation prior to that, so that we have the opportunity to complete certain elements in a day, so that the goal is that by Saturday,
So is the ground going to be concrete? Is it going to be pavers? Is it going to be crushed granite? What do y'all anticipate?
It will be a mix of all of those things. We do, for accessibility purposes, we'll have a sidewalk through there.
Okay.
Kind of the seating area that we're anticipating that be a decomposed granite. We have found in our recent reconstruction of the animal shelter some bricks that we'd like to use in certain spots, so that we'll be reusing some materials as well. And then there will be landscaping throughout the project.
And then what are you expecting the community to do? I think I understand the art part of it, but what are you expecting on that day for the community to do, and who's going to be, are you looking at 20 people you need, or are you looking at 250 people, and who's organizing all that?
So at the moment I am. And we're unsure because it's the first time we've ever done it. We think that probably through reaching out through all of our partnerships that we'll have a lot of participation that way, so we're not really sure how much advertising we'll need to do, so we're kind of playing it by ear. We're reaching out to also the residents in downtown because they're the ones closest to the plaza. The things that we have some pieces that will be able to account for a large amount of people in an art project that will be incorporated into the park. And then there will be a lot of plantings and things like that that are easier to do from just kind of a come and go perspective. That was kind of why we're also combining the block party, so that if this is done or there's not enough to do and a lot of people come, there's still activity for them to do downtown.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Is there provision for shade here as well? Sometimes it gets hot in Texas.
Through the plaza, one of, we're still creating it, but one of my art projects is a unique shading structure that I'm hoping will be one of the pieces that the community can construct.
And I'm assuming, because you're talking about murals, is that only on the city side? Or have y'all talked to Hanover's? Are they willing for their wall to be done, or am I misunderstanding what that's going to mean?
Hanover's we are talking with Hanover's about how that impacts their building and things like that, but the actual space that we have for one of the murals will actually be a movable structure, so that at some point in time we need to utilize the space for something different. We can move it to another park, or kind of the rotation of art gives us an opportunity to put something different in that space. So we'll be constructing a canvas. We've gotten the name of some local artists to kind of help us create that mural. And then we hope would be a great kind of selfie spot, a creation of a frame behind it so you can interact with it. A selfie spot. Yeah.
Take a picture.
I'm sure we'll have a hashtag to go along with it too. So.
And some snap filters.
And some snap
something.
filters, right? You can make yourself,
Yeah.
look like a variety of
Not to try to think through it all the way through.
Sure.
What happens if the art piece of this doesn't really catch on? People don't care that it's art, that it just becomes kind of a plaza. Is that okay too?
I think that's great. I think that we'll have those pieces there. Some of the art, not necessarily a visual art, some of the pieces that we're looking at are musical park instruments. We found some unique flowers that make a great little marimba, but also is visually pleasing. Gives you something to do while you're in the space. But I think creating just a place to go, something else to do in that area will be great, whether they embrace the art or not.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think it sounds like a great idea. I'm glad to see that downtown is going to get something to be a draw for people. And I think it sounds like a great project.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I hope
Does
we
the
see
city
you
put
all.
any cash into it?
We do not have any cash into it. We have a lot of
You're putting your workers into it.
We have a lot of labor into that. One of the projects we are looking at is a continuation of sidewalk along Walnut to connect the sidewalk there to Railroad. Would be potentially our sidewalk project that would complete the loop around that block of City Hall and Hanover's. But for the project, it is geared by city staff.
Thank you.
Well, I heard the Downtown Association, what's their role?
Yeah, we have met with the Downtown Association. They are partnering with the city generally on a bench program, and then we're meeting with them again to talk about their specific role in that. We've just generally met very high level. You're really our second formal presentation. First, we needed city council to like the idea, and then we're looking for the dollars to back it, and then we'll be having specific requests for all of those groups.
Who will maintain the space once it's built?
City staff. our maintenance team that maintains City Hall currently will be responsible for maintenance of the space.
And if there's anything that needs to be replaced,
Correct.
you have funds for that too.
Yes,
I know you're on Rotary's agenda for our next board meeting.
right.
If you've not reached out to the American Legion,
Yes.
if you're talking about some fabulous workers, those guys and ladies are fabulous. Great volunteers.
Fantastic.
To,
Good.
to answer Ken's question, the Pflugerville Downtown Association is working with the city to provide some city furniture, outdoor benches, trash cans, things like that in this area will be a part of it. And we're also under consideration, I believe, for putting up a mural there on Building 500, which is at the far end of this walkway.
Well, I say as the former owner of a business right across the street from there, and with a new restaurant going in there, if they're busy, if they're successful, there's not enough room on Main Street for people to park, and people do end up parking in council parking lots. And if it's raining, if it's been raining, if it's nasty walking across that because your feet get dirty and everything. In the dark, it's dark. So people leave the restaurant at 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and it's very dark walking across that. So this will be a nice improvement for the city.
Will this be illuminated in some way?
Yes. We'll have, we're looking at solar lights, kind of as the pedestrian walk, and then as you saw in the previous, well, I can't go back. We do plan to have lights above that kind of give it, so you can see down here.
Okay.
We have a giant tower, which we thought about removing, but it's a great place to hang lights from. And so that'll be one of our painting projects, as well as we'll be stringing lights through that to help the illumination.
And that stringing lights there will also tie directly in with the patio across the street, because that's basically how their lights are strung as well.
So folks at Hanover's can wander into this space when they're enjoying their conversation.
They already
That's
do.
right, that's right.
Speaking of Hanover, one of the things, and I don't know how you combat this, since Hanover's is smoke-free, you don't want this to turn into
That's a great point.
the smoking area.
Yeah.
Where maybe you post it, no smoking, or something along that line, because if not, you'll have cigarette butts all over it, because people come out of Hanover's to smoke specifically. Or provide on the Hanover side something, a receptacle for them to put their cigarette butts in.
Only
That's a great point.
the internal Hanover's is smoke-free. Most people, I think, go to
Do
the
they go to
back
the back?
area and smoke.
Okay.
They've actually got seats back there.
It's a great,
Thank you.
But no, it's a good consideration, and I would make sure we don't have any sort of ashtray in that area.
yeah.
This Hanover smoking area, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we don't want it to
Ugh,
turn
we
into
don't want
that.
that.
Yeah, we're spending too much money on it
Yeah.
to want that.
Anything else for Ms. Barron? Do I have a motion?
Thank you so much.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Emily.
We will be there.
April 27th, I need to put that on the.
Yeah, with it. All right, we'll take about a 10-minute recess at this point. It's 7:58.
Rick, do you have a minute?
where were we jumping now to? This one or this one? All right, we are now skipping to another action item, and that is 8C 2019-7382. Discuss and consider action authorizing a challenge grant payment not to exceed $15,000 to the Pflugerville Foundation for the purpose of providing classroom equipment and furniture for the Pflugerville Independent School District's incubator program. Presented by Allison Kane, Executive Director, Pflugerville ISD Education Foundation, and Tracy Hendricks, CTE Director, Pflugerville ISD.
We don't have Allison here tonight. We do have Tracy, and we also have the coordinator,
Okay.
Tasha Wilson, who's brand new, so everybody, welcome.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. We're excited to share Incubator EDU with you. And I understand some of you may be a little familiar with it, but we will just kind of do a basic introduction. It was interesting when we were sitting in the foyer, the Texas Economic Development Guide that's out there made a reference to innovative entrepreneurial environments around our area. And it said, if you can't find support for your business startup in Texas, you're not looking. And also made a reference to innovation investments not being hard to come by in our area. And we find that that is the case, and that we have students who are extremely interested in learning how to start their own business. And this is one way that we can help them to engage in that environment and to be successful in it. So the very first thing is a link to a video. If you don't mind helping me with that, please. This is actually a video that was produced by our Pflugerville High School AV program. They went with us to Vista Ridge and Leander ISD to tour their Incubator EDU program. And we wanted to show you what that environment looks like and let you hear from students and the teachers who are participating in that program. Maybe, sorry if it doesn't work. It's a yes.
Oh,
They didn't use Max, did they?
They probably wanted to. I can send it to y'all so that you can view it at your leisure if you'd like. We actually did embed some of the photos from the space in the presentation, so we'll at least be able to show that to you. What we're proposing is to start an Incubator EDU program at Pflugerville High School. We've identified the space, we've identified the teacher, and we have campus administration and counseling support. And they've actually already begun to market the course to the students to gauge interest. And we currently have 18 students who are interested in starting the course. And we feel like that's a good start for a brand new course, and for which they've seen very little promotion, right? Because it doesn't exist yet. So we're trying to give them a taste of what it could look like. So Incubator EDU is a national program that provides high school students with a curriculum that trains them in startups. They actually do go through the process of starting a business through the course of the class. And so this is targeted towards juniors and for the first year seniors. And what it allows them to do is start in the course. They start with an assessment that kind of builds on their strengths and helps them to identify their strengths from a business perspective. And then they're placed into groups. Those groups then have to work together to come up with a business idea. They will go through the process of a business plan, and they will, at the middle point of the year, do what's known as a minimum viable pitch. At that point, they can secure a small amount of money to actually take their product or service to production, so to speak, for testing. And then they can go through several iterations, and at the end of the year, they make a pitch for startup money. And then the program could be extended to a second year called Accelerator, where students would actually then be operating their businesses as part of the class. And they would be their own LLCs, and the school would help them set that up. So what's unique about this opportunity is the fact that the students actually operate real businesses in the course, but it has a very real connection to industry. And so it partners with business leaders and entrepreneurs in the area to provide coaches and mentors for the students. And so through the course, they actually meet with an assigned mentor once a week and do check-ins and get advice on their product and their process. And then they have coaches who come in and do guest speaking and instruction on several things. Like there will be a business expert who comes in and talks about how to prepare for a minimum viable pitch, how to write a business plan, how to work through finances. So that's a little bit about what the Incubator EDU program is. And this is a little bit about what our goal is. We want to provide students an opportunity to develop those viable businesses, and we want them to do that in an environment that mimics what they call the real world, right? We want them to see and engage with what they would see and engage with in the business world. And so the second goal that we have, sorry, my allergies are really kicking in, so I apologize if you can't hear me very well, but the second part of our goal is to engage our community with these students. They are fascinating students to learn from and work with, and they have great ideas. Oh, it looks like it did pull up. No.
We found a way to speak.
Magic. That's awesome. Okay, well, I'll quit talking and let the video talk for itself.
Incubator is a business program where you create a product and then you make a prototype and then pitch it and you hope to make it into a real business.
Incubator EDU is bringing the real world into the entrepreneurship classroom. We make every part of the program as real as we can, and students are actually building their own startup businesses in the classroom.
I selected this course because a lot of people told me great things about it.
I selected this course because I someday hope to open my own business or be part of a good business.
I chose this course because I have a passion for business. It presented itself as like a very unique course in that you get to meet real people in the community who have done it before.
When I first saw the incubator space, I was like, wow, this place is really cool, all the technology and stuff. It's nothing like any of the other classrooms I've ever seen.
One of the really cool aspects of Incubator is that it's very collaborative. They use the different facilities like the big flat screen TVs and the different rolling chairs to better facilitate discussions.
The class is structured so that a group of 4 or 5 students develop an idea, and then they meet with a mentor 1 hour a week outside of class. And the mentor is in charge of helping them vet out and actually make their product, a minimum version of their product, and test it and iterate it until they're happy with it. And in May, they will do a final pitch to see if they can get funding from our judges.
My business idea is a mobile application solution called ScreenWise, and it is set to turning unproductive time to more productive time on a child's mobile application.
My group came up with the idea of InstaCloset.
InstaCloset is an app where you take pictures of your clothes and it will generate outfits based on your style and everything you do. Our motto is get dressed with no stress and no mess.
I would say the most valuable and my favorite aspect about the incubator learning environment is the mentors. They not only help you launch your business, if you build your relationship with your mentors throughout the year, the mentors give you a lot of opportunities outside the incubator classroom. They might give you some internship opportunities, some ways to find scholarships for your college. They might find someone who has an interest in your career path, an expert, and you might be able to shadow them. Like there's so many different opportunities that these mentors present.
I think Incubator EDU is a program that changes kids' lives. I've seen colleges starting to recognize the incubator program and offering scholarships to students just based on their participation in the program, and admitting students that might not otherwise be admitted due to GPA requirements.
If you are passionate about something and you really want to go into business, then you should really join this class. It'll help you. It'll give you connections later in life.
It's a great opportunity, and not all schools have it. If you're really into the business program and stuff, it would be great to get into that because it's a good opportunity.
The way we're taught is very good because we learn from all types of different people, from like big businessmen to people who are also part of big companies, and it really shows us where we can go in life.
So we wanted to visit that facility and learn more about the setup because that is the area where we need the most support. It is not a traditional classroom. It doesn't look like a traditional classroom, and it doesn't function like a traditional classroom. And that is the thing that sets it apart as far as environment. And you heard the young man in the blue shirt talk about the difference when he walks into that classroom, the way they approach their work, and he said it's like no classroom I've ever seen before, and that's the goal. It should mimic what they would see in their work environment. And interestingly enough, Latasha and I had a chance to tour MW Builders right across the street, and they have spaces that look a lot like this. And so the workforce has shifted, and our classrooms don't look like the workforce. And that's an issue that we're trying to address, and this is one area where we can do that. So this is a rendering. We've actually been working with a company who can supply the specialized furniture and equipment that we need for the space. And so this is a rendering of what the actual space would look like. And it's similar in some ways to what you saw in the video with the D-shaped tables. And everything in this space is completely flexible. The idea is that we want to be adaptable based on need. So there is nothing that is fixed to a wall that can't be moved and better utilized in other areas as the program grows. And so those D-shaped tables have an arm for a monitor, and that's that large display that he referenced in the video. And then right in the center of the table, there's a little silver gray box that's sticking up. That is an integrated technology hub. One of the things that we've heard when we go out and visit with some of these other programs is that that's an important aspect of the collaborative nature of the work. The students need to be able to plug their devices into it and then simultaneously cast all of their work onto a single screen so that they can collaborate back and forth, as opposed to looking over each other's shoulders on individual laptops. And what we found is that campuses that are operating incubator EDU that don't start with the tables that have the technology integrated are having more challenges when they try to supplement it with an aftermarket product. And so we wanted to be sure that we're starting with something that's going to function the way we need it to function so that we can avoid some of those same issues. This is just a picture to represent. You saw this in the video, but the idea is that each team has their own collaborative workstation. That's those D-shaped tables. And they each get their own portable easels. And what we see the students use that a lot for is ideation and then brainstorming and problem solving. And so that also functions as a divider between their spaces if they need to do that. And so that's been a really useful tool for the programs that are currently operating Incubator EDU. And then you'll notice too that there's flexible seating that's in the center of the room, because what often happens is as the instructor is essentially a facilitator. There's very little direct teaching that the instructor does. And so as the students are working, if one group has a question about something, the instructor can pause the groups and pull them together in these collaborative large areas so that they can cover whatever that question was with everyone at the same time. And so the idea here is that they're working in their small groups, but they have accessibility to each other at all times. And then you'll notice too, just around the room, that they had quotes on vinyls around the room and framed blueprints and art that was kind of entrepreneurial in spirit. And those are just some of the things that students tell us make a big difference when they walk into a space. They don't feel like they're in a traditional classroom, and it's amazing how that completely changes their outlook on what they're learning and how they're learning it. So it's a pretty fascinating space. So that's a picture of the external box, and that's not the ideal situation, but that's what Vista Ridge finds themselves working with. And that was what I referenced earlier, where it's better if it's integrated into the table because it functions more seamlessly. But that display in the bottom left is what that technology hub will do. It allows the students to broadcast their screens up so that the group can work from the same view. So where are we with our funding? There's been a lot of generous support already, and so we have the $15,000 that's available to us, but this is not an inexpensive program to start. And so what we've sat down and looked at is what do we have and what do we still need? And so these next couple of slides will show that. If it's in pink, if the cell is highlighted in pink, we are going to take on that expense. Okay, so we wanted to highlight what we're trying to pick up for the cost. And so right now we've already committed to the teacher desk that's needed for that space, and here's why that's even on there. That teacher desk, because that room is completely flexible, nothing is fixed. The teacher desk is also not fixed, it's completely flexible. And what the teachers have reported that they use quite a bit is actually a mobile podium. It's on wheels and it has like a shelf underneath it. They actually move that around as they go from group to group and work with the students. And so the desk is actually a combination of those two things. We are also going to purchase the large display monitors for each of the 5 workstations, and then the technology like the laptops and the miscellaneous cables and things that go along with those. What we still need is the specialized equipment furniture style. So the D tables, the collaboration tables, and for reference, the collaboration tables that we're looking at are not the exact same as Vista Ridge. We've tried to do our homework and talk to as many people as possible who are currently operating this program to find out what's working and what's not working. And one of the things that we heard repeatedly is the ability to alter the height of those tables has been extremely valuable to the people who had it, and the ones that didn't, the students were like, we feel like we're sitting on the ground all the time because those tables are really low. So these collaboration tables actually have an adjustable height feature that allows them to go kind of a cafe height or down to more of a seated position. That also allows them to be more flexible in how they're used. The D-shaped tables we've mentioned, the easels, which are magnetic dry erase whiteboards, and they also have removable individual whiteboards so that in the group, the students can make their own notes and then post them back up on the easel for everyone to view. The armless task stools are for the for the workstation tables, but they can also be utilized in other areas of the room. The nice thing about those stools is that because they are so light and mobile, when a teacher needs to bring the group together, or better yet, when there's a guest speaker in the room and they want to talk to the whole group, you'll notice those students were still sitting at their workstations. Some students had to turn a different direction. There were stuff on the tables. This would allow our classroom setting, the students just take their stools and create a large group, and then they can talk directly to the guest speaker. And then the other thing would be the round ottoman and square ottomans, and those are just those flexible seating options for when they do have those collaboration tables at a lower level. I don't know if y'all have ever been in a space like this, but it's fascinating to watch how the students use that type of furniture. They are so creative with it. They'll turn it into tables and sit on the floor. They will turn it into a stool. I've seen students turn them over, and it changes the height of it. I mean, they come up with all kinds of interesting ways to utilize it. And then programmatically, the startup for incubator funding, it is a curriculum by a third party. And so we have to pay for access to that curriculum and the training that goes along with it. It's extensive training. The teacher actually goes to Chicago for about a week, and they embed the teacher in the course. And they actually walk through the process of instructing it, and they have master teachers there that support them. In addition to that, the teacher has ongoing support throughout the program through monthly webinars where they actually talk with a community of other incubator EDU teachers to learn from them. So all of those things are included in the startup costs and the training. So we have committed to paying for the travel expenses for the teacher to go to Chicago. And right now we just have an estimate because airfare changes all the time. But we figure that's somewhere around $1,500 between meals, transportation, lodging, and airfare. And then the one thing through the startup, we've got $15,000 covered of that. And then.
But that is through the Pflugerville Economic Development Foundation, not
Yes.
PED, not
Oh,
PCDC.
sorry, my apologies. I'm still
Yeah,
learning
I just want to make
who
sure
was.
they knew
yeah,
that they had
thank
spent
you.
$15,000 yet.
Sorry, my apologies. I wasn't
That's
sure
okay.
because I came in after this had started, and so they had already acquired some of that funding, but I can't see that side of it.
Yeah,
All I
yeah,
can
but
see
that's
is
okay.
that
I
it's
just wanna
there.
make sure.
So, yeah. Well, thank you for clarifying that.
That's fine, that's fine.
So we do have the $15,000, but we are shy of the $5,000, and that $5,000 is for the instructor training, and then we're going to pick up the other $5,000 for the startup. And I believe this is just a summary of that. So what we've secured thus far, again, not PCDC, but is $15,000, and then the district is committing, and when I say the district, Career and Technical Education is committing to $29,100 roughly. And so what we find ourselves in need of is around $55,000, and that covers all of the specialized equipment, the two previous slides, and then the instructor training as well. And that's a roundup because we know that there's freight and installation charges for things that we might get estimates for, but they could change based on a final quote. So, I mean, that's the program in a nutshell and what we're trying to accomplish. We have seen this program in Leander and Austin ISD, and uniquely, I was having this conversation with Mr. Vanderwerken earlier, but there's several universities in the Midwest that are supporting programs like this, but who's doing it in Texas? And about a year and a half ago, I attended a conference, and Baylor University was there, and they have they have an entrepreneur program that isn't directly related to incubator. But I approached the professor after her presentation, and I mentioned it, and she was pretty interested in the incubator program and had not yet heard of it. And so it's gaining traction around the state and around the nation, but it has been very successful in helping students to at least go through the process of a startup. But these students are actually maintaining these businesses as they leave high school, and that's the outcome, that we're seeking, is for these students to have viable businesses that they can then continue when they graduate.
Tracy, I just want to make one other comment, and that has to do with the board's involvement. One of the things that we talked about when we first started talking about this last year, actually, in last year's budget, was the fact that it gave us an opportunity actually to maybe participate, that the advisory boards that are there, even opportunities for us to, as needed mentor, come in and actually provide some training. And then, and also participate in judging the events, that the board is very interactive in the community. They're real hands up on, roll up their sleeves kind of folks. And so for them to be able to participate, I think is as important as us providing the funding.
Sure.
And I just want to make sure that, that is still the case, that we can, as this program progresses. And the other thing too is, of course, through our BRE program, Business Retention Expansion Program, we have contacts with all the businesses in the area that we think would also be great folks to come in and assist with some of the discussion on entrepreneurism. We have a lot of high-tech developers, et cetera, and I think some of them that would be even interested in participating in funding too. So just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And we are definitely looking for all of those connections that we can possibly make. And we've started to reach out in the community, just even since Latasha and I have been here, and make connections. And y'all have already been instrumental in that. Christian helped me connect with Saisu, and we were able to go take a tour and program their robot, which was really cool. But through those initial contacts, we're talking with them about other opportunities to partner with us, like mentorships, like guest speaking, and everyone has been extremely receptive. So, but we would be delighted to have every single one of you participate at whatever level you feel comfortable with. But that's the goal of the program, is to have our instructor be a facilitator, but for the students to hear from, like the one student said, real people. That's who they want to learn from. Questions?
I know you have a limited budget within CTE as a whole, and I've seen some of the numbers for the future. How are you going to deal with programs like Project Lead the Way? We just talked about the other CTE programs you talked about. Where's the space from a faculty perspective and from a student involvement perspective?
That's an excellent question. So we are in the process of developing what we're calling our high quality program framework for CTE. That will be the driver for every decision we make about our programming. And I say that because there are 12 elements in that represent what a high quality CTE program needs in order to help students be successful. So we're in the process of evaluating all of our programs to see whether or not they are benchmarked, where they are benchmarked on those 12 elements, so that we can move the work forward. There will be some programs that don't necessarily align. And so one of the things that I was asked to do when I came on board was to streamline our offerings. And that doesn't mean to close things down, but it does mean to potentially consolidate, where we might have a course that no longer meets our workforce demand. So we might need to alter that to something else. And what we find is entrepreneurship is one of those things that's kind of coming into play. That we were doing a course called entrepreneurship, but nothing like this can accomplish. And so the idea there is to then replace that with this. And we're able to use existing faculty for this program. And so that's really beneficial as well. It will be one of those things that it builds over time. We're not going to try to build 6 sections of this right off the bat. We're going to start with one section so that we can do it right. And so we have a teacher identified who has space in his schedule to do that for us, and actually is really excited about the program. Project Lead the Way is another one that we do. We're looking at several different things. One of the things that we're potentially looking at is how we deliver all of our CTE programs, and I don't want to get too in the weeds with y'all. You've been here a long time, but there are programs that we can potentially share between campuses and not necessarily have them physically on every single campus, but give students from every campus access to them. And that's one thing that we're exploring.
So would this program be open to all campuses?
For the time being, we think it's just Pflugerville High School, but the idea will be that it could be available to all of the high schools to participate.
I don't see a challenge grant application here. Who is actually requesting this money?
The Career and Technical Education team at Pflugerville ISD directly.
ISD directly?
Yes.
Okay, and what is it that you're specifically asking PCDC for the money to buy?
Thank you, you're on it. As much of the things that we see represented in the needs columns as possible. And I don't know what PCDC had available or has talked about in the past, but we're in need of approximately $55,000, and we're looking for as many sources as possible that can help us accomplish that goal.
You're asking us to give you money to purchase furniture.
Correct. It's that specialized furniture that we can't do with like traditional classroom tables.
Why can the ISD not purchase the furniture themselves?
So that's an interesting question. And with career and technical education, we have these extra special rules that we have to work with that other departments don't always have to use. And one of those is we have federal funding that does not permit us to purchase furniture. And our local sources, frankly, can't sustain a purchase that large for a one-time expense because we use that money for professional development for the teachers and classroom supplies and equipment. So that's how we're able to fund like the monitors, the laptops, part of the startup, because we can do curriculum, and then part of the teachers' training expenses, the travel. We're able to fund those things on a regular basis. It gets much harder to do things like furniture because of the rules that we have to follow for funding.
You will be, the students will actually be forming a company, you said.
That's correct. Their first year, they don't have to formalize them as an LLC, but if the program were to grow to the second year of Accelerator, then they would be able to actually file the LLC and operate it as their own business. In the first year, it's going through the business plan, the minimum viable pitch, and the end of that course is when they seek their startup funding to actually start the business. So technically, at the end of the school year, if they were awarded funding, they could go ahead and file.
So they would be actually producing a good service or product.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
And Victor, as a part of that, the participation of the board would have the opportunity, as well as some of the community leaders and even the industries, would be to participate in that in some way, either as an advisory, on an advisory board for certain types of projects that they'd be doing based on industry or interest or skill set. But the other thing too is to judge the final pitches and participate in that arena as well. So it's a real exciting program that we've been working on now for, about a year. And fortunately, last year, the PEDF was able to step up and participate and provide the initial registration dollars for certification, the certification process. So that's out of the way. So the remainder has to do with the environment and with that furniture.
And with the access to the curriculum itself.
Right. And actually, we already have visited about this. We just didn't know what type of furniture. Tracy's taken the time to not only, do the homework and find out in the local areas what worked, what didn't, but also to put together a more detailed list, because that was one of the requests by the board. In addition, during our budget process, we set aside $15,000. Of course, the board has the ability to do something differently if they chose, but $15,000 that we would look at for this year in order to fund specifically for furniture because of the specific reasons that she has stated this evening.
Maybe I misunderstood you. You said if it goes on to the second year, if they become an accelerator, is this a one-year experiment that you're anticipating that
my
there's a
apologies.
chance it's not going to go to a second year?
No, it's just that it's a 2-year program, so Incubator EDU would be the junior level course, Accelerator would be the senior level course. So Incubator will be in place, and we don't have any hesitation about that course making and continuing. The next step would be to implement Accelerator EDU, but that would be year 2.
And would that be in the same classroom,
It could
using the same equipment?
Right, it could potentially be in the same space. The only reason it wouldn't be is if this program was so massively popular that they were running 6 sections of Incubator EDU all day long, and then they wouldn't have room for Accelerator. 6 sections represents the class periods in the day, but, well, there's 4 because it's a block schedule, but teachers teach 6 of 8, complicated. But if they were filling up that space all day long with Incubator, then Accelerator would need to be in a separate space. But that's foreseeable to be 3-4 years down the road before it could build to that capacity.
I like the program very much. I compliment you on putting it together.
Thank you.
I can see potential down the road. We're just looking at funding and getting something started, but
Sure.
roll this forward a few years, and you have students who are creating businesses. And one of the roles that PCDC may be able to work on in the future is to look at how do we keep those businesses in this community
Mhm.
and create the jobs that really create the wealth.
Yep.
So job creation and ideas create wealth and create opportunity.
Mhm.
So it's really, could be hugely impactful for
Mhm.
this area over time.
And we think that that's the benefit of having local community members participate in the program, because the students get to see their community engage with them, and that's likely to draw them in, as opposed to feeling isolated or disconnected.
Well, I would hope that everybody on the board who has an opportunity to mentor these students would do so.
Me too.
We might be mentored more than they.
That's true, that's true.
Well, I know I need that Insta closet, so I'm hoping they take that one to fruition.
Notwithstanding anything else that may happen, yes.
So Amy, I'm not sure I'm totally understanding. They're asking for 55,000, but I just heard you say we have 15,000?
We put 15,000 in our budget last year to assist with furniture purchase for this year. At that time, when they began to try to put together what they thought the costs were going to be in our first initial meeting, Tracy wasn't there for that, and they hadn't really explored what the furniture costs were going to be. And so, at that time, the estimates weren't as high as they are now. We weren't sure what we were looking at. And so, we went through phase 1, which was get the certification underway, get the training for the teachers set aside, and all that funding was set up for last year, and then we were coming back this year to help with the furniture. Given that, though, knowing that, we were operating kind of in the dark, not knowing.
Sure.
And so, their gap is, 55,000. Our budget says 15. The board has the ability to do a budget amendment. We would be able to fund that, and we'd have to take that to city council for a final if we wanted to expand on the 15,000. Or, the other thing I'm sitting here thinking is that your timeline for starting the program is when?
Well, so, and if all the funding is secured, 1920, it starts in August. We are not obligated to do that. We can actually, I've communicated with the organization, and we can actually do a shadow year, which allows us to pay the fees to be engaged with the program and send our teacher to the training and kind of get acclimated to it, actually offering it to the students. So we have the ability to do a shadow year for the first year, and there's no benefit to the students for that. They don't participate in the program. They would just do their, normal classes, but it's an opportunity for us to kind of wade into the pool, so to speak. But frankly, Latasha and I both come from a district who was operating Incubator EDU, so we're familiar enough with it to know that if the funding is secured, we can do it. We're not concerned about that aspect of it, but it does completely rest. The ability to implement in 1920 does completely rest on the ability to secure funding to
And
do the
prior
startup.
to September, what's the deadline for you to be able to get the equipment in and get it set up and get it ready for students to participate?
So as far as the equipment, it would need to be in place no later than the second week of August.
Okay, so,
2019 or
2019, if we were to implement in the coming school year.
so if we were to take action this evening on what we're doing right now, and then come back and take another look and see about, making a budget amendment, we could do that. We are not posted for the budget amendment, but we could potentially, if it's the board's desire, pass a motion that would require a budget amendment, but would exceed the 15,000 that we have on the agenda for this evening. So it's your desire, but again, our budget planning process allowed for the 15,000, and,
What other funding sources do you have available?
So outside of the funds that CTE's committed, there has not been another funding source directly identified, but I do understand that a presentation was made prior to us coming on board with the Pflugerville Downtown Association, I believe. And unfortunately, I don't know the result of that conversation. I just know that there was one initiated.
Victor?
President sitting on here.
That particular motion went nowhere.
Okay.
All right. Now, as I recall, the Pflugerville Education Foundation also dedicated $15,000 to the effort.
no, 5. What, at 5?
5, That's how we got to the 15 total that we have now. It was 10 plus their 5.
No.
No, it was 15 plus
Ken,
or
what do
5.
you remember?
It's 20.
Oh, so currently we only have 15, so I need to investigate the other 5.
Yeah, go talk to Allison, because I clearly remember it
Okay.
being 15.
Yeah, she
Ken, what do
said
you
she was
remember?
gonna, well, the foundation agreed.
We argued about it.
The foundation agreed that
I
they
remember that part.
would, Education Foundation would match, I think, the 15 that the other group is putting up, or if
Okay.
it was 10.
Okay.
But I think they said come back because they might do more.
Okay, I will check with Allison
We'll have to
then.
get our
'cause-
math.
Yeah, because we do have the 15 secured. It's currently in the bank, so to speak, waiting for expenditure. But we've not seen any other, so I will follow up with Allison about that. She and I have had some conversations, but that didn't come up, so.
Yeah, they had pledged, I don't know, but you all are on the board, so you should be able to
I
tell
recall
us.
15.
I remember quite a vigorous discussion.
There was a reason for that threshold.
Okay, so 15, you've got 15, that's 30. So that puts you right now, grand
That
total.
puts you at 40, needing 40. If there is another 15 out there, that puts you at needing 40.
And if we
Right.
did,
They need
and if we
15
did
or
15,
55 right
that
now.
leaves you
Real close.
a smaller gap. But
And so you said our budget last year. I'm confused on your timing. Are you talking about?
Yeah,
The
we-
budget that
Year
was.
we're in right now?
yes,
Our
Okay.
current budget year,
Our
yes.
current
current
budget year has 15,000, and it was specifically for this item?
yes, we looked, first of all, last year, it was brought to the board during last year's budget in FY '18. We considered it at that time and decided, because it was so late in the year, that, and because we were able to find other funding, we challenged the foundation to help you, both foundations, the Education and the Economic Development Foundation, to help out that year. And then that we would come back in FY '19, and we set aside 15 in order to try to help. So it would bring you to where we thought we'd need. And then you've done the homework since then. So yes, this year, for FY '19, we budgeted 15. Last year, we didn't do anything but discussed it and considered it, and other funding was found for the first year.
So you're not seeing it in the budget?
Well, I just, if you could show it to me.
Sure. So in the
What
challenge
item?
grant and the
Challenge grants, yes.
go to the recruitment section, there's a challenge grant
Under
line. We
recruitment.
have 12,000 left there, and then there's a subcategory called test fits, there's 4,500. So that makes our 15,000.
I'm sorry, I'm still not seeing it. Under recruitment,
tell you what line
not
it
for
is.
under
Well, the
community
test fits
projects.
is not part of the money that we budgeted for the
So I'm looking
incubator.
under community
What's
projects
left in
and challenge
challenge
grants.
grants line is $12,000, that's 69,010, because we used 13 of the 25 that was in there for my Linda, or lynda.com. So there's
You-
12,000 left in challenge grants.
Right, so we allocated 25,000, what I'm seeing, we've already used 13.
That's right, for Linda.
I'm doing 25 minus 13, I see 12,000.
That's correct,
That's
but we
correct.
actually had put in there 15.
So we went
And
over
did
budget
not
on
know
something
Linda was
else.
gonna cost as much as it
And
did,
we're
yes.
already talking about, all right, I just have some concerns on where the money's coming from.
Sure.
It's coming from that budget line.
That
We would
budget
have to
line.
make a budget amendment as needed if it drops above that bottom line of all of our projects for that area. Now, having said that, for us to do what we're doing here, I don't think that exceeds what we have in
Absolutely
that
not.
budget
That's
line.
what I was saying, there's quite a buffer built
We
into
just-
that line.
Yeah. So that was, the challenge grant was actually where we were gonna put the funds for this, and we did that. Our budget information has it, and it's detailed. But, because of Linda coming in higher, that puts us at 3,000 down on that.
Right,
But
which
at
is
the
why
same
we
time,
used
we have the funds
That's right.
in that area that would cover it.
What about the $100,000 we just approved? Where's that, is that not the same challenge grant line?
It's the same
No, that's
subsection,
workforce
600.
education, and it's a separate line item.
Okay.
69,150.
And then at the very beginning of our meeting, you mentioned something, we were gonna have to do another budget amendment.
No, wait.
The
What?
very beginning of the meeting, you mentioned something about another budget amendment. I don't recall what it was. I'm new enough on it that I didn't catch what it was. What was that?
The workforce grant with TWC.
Yeah, that's if we get the grant award, we bring that back at a future meeting. You'd have to make a decision as to whether or not you wanted to fund it at that time. But we're making application, doesn't cost us
The
anything.
workforce grant being the thing with the fire department?
Yes.
Okay. So that, what do we have in that line item right now?
Oh,
We have 50, that's why I said
So
we
we'd
would
have
have
to
to
do
come back.
$100,000 there.
Increase there.
And then here, assuming the 15 is there, we'd have to do another 25,000.
Potentially, yes.
And we're
At the-
sitting at 4.3 million net right now.
Yes, net, we would have to go significantly,
Net.
I'm talking outside of the entire community project subset. We are, right now, we would be $100,000-something outside that number.
If you brought back
Right.
for the grant.
Yes.
Right.
And we were planning to do that if
So
we.
we know that all set.
Yeah.
So this
That's
one is
if we
minor.
get it. That's if we got the grant.
And explain to me why
I
the
think we
normal
need to,
budget of PFISD is not, that it's only your one little department. Why are you having to carry all this water by yourself as opposed when you've got a budget of $150 million or whatever y'all's budget is? Why is that such a sticking point?
So CTE is in many cases self-funded because of so CTE courses generate weighted funding for the school district. That means when a student is sitting in a CTE class, the district is earning more than if they were sitting in an English class. There are regulations around how that money is spent, and so generally speaking, CTE self-funds based off the requirement that they spend 58% of that generated revenue on CTE programming. And so the budgets have been built out in such a way that they cover all of our regular and reoccurring expenses like professional development and travel, competitions for students, curriculum, instructional materials, and then standard equipment that it takes to operate a course like cameras for AV or dog dummies for vet medicine, those types of things. And so we don't typically get funding from outside of the CTE revenue source.
If you get about halfway there, can the school board then go back and find extra money for you?
Potentially. So I did have a meeting with one of the district leaders, and originally there was the thought that they were going to be able to support some of the furniture expense. When we followed up in a meeting, that apparently was not the case. And I don't have any other details about that. There's some things that I don't get to know, but that was the only information that I had on that. Is that they had tried to identify a funding source but was not able to do so.
Would it make sense to, I guess I'd be in favor of approving the 15 now. And, it sounds like you're still on the discovery phase to see if there's other funding sources available. We could always revisit
I
this.
believe we
That
should.
sounded strangely like a motion.
And here I was going to ask to table the thing at this point.
I make a motion. that we
I'll second
approve
it.
the 15.
What was the motion?
We
Approve
approve this
15.
15.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second.
Give me a second. I'm still trying to figure out what I've got on. We're jumping around a bunch tonight. Okay. You can,
I would rather have tabled it, but we have a motion and a second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
no.
Nay.
Nay.
Motion fails.
Okay, now I'll make a motion that we table the item until we find out more information. Is there another funding source? I'm not crazy. The reason I didn't have any problem at all with the fire department is because the fire department's footing the bill right now, and it's a successful program that's working. I'm not crazy about us funding this when the school board won't even consider
Yes,
funding
I
a
am
piece
with
of it.
you
I
exactly.
don't mind putting some money in it, but I don't understand why they're not, when their budget, I know they spend a lot of money and they do incredible things with it, but they can find $15,000.
Please
I think that's
understand,
how
I
we,
don't-
I
This-
think that's how we get to
I
that
don't
point.
think anybody in this room is opposed to the program. I mean, this is like, some of the 4-H, I did exactly the same thing in the business development when I was in high school a long time ago, but it was a civilian program. Junior achievement, yes.
they're
But
still
this is-
around.
This is the modern version of that. Everybody's in favor of it. I just don't feel like some of the others here, I think it's an appropriate use of this money.
Well, and I would almost say too that, because I started working with this last year, I was the one that kind of pulled together some of the sources for the funding and tried to get some help for y'all to get this off the ground. And the Pflugerville Economic Development Foundation called Pfluger Forward. It said, we're going to do X amount this year, but we would consider coming back and doing that again. To explore that along with, what the foundation has given, the Education Foundation has given, and then to also go back and see what the school could do, and then come back again to us with what's the gap, I think is prudent and I think a good idea. So,
I would love to see it again, I just need more.
We will
Yeah.
readdress this at a later time after the executive
Sounds
director
good.
comes back with more information and more
can do that.
budgeting details.
and we maybe will get some additional assistance through the business community as well.
Yeah, we'll reach out to as many avenues as we can, and we're open to suggestions for who to talk to, but we'll definitely go back to the economic development and then the school foundation and then the school board and see what available support we can muster.
And Tracy, I just want to compliment you. I know you came in the middle of this and you've been trying to throw it all together and figure it out. And without Allison here this evening to kind of give you some backup on some of the stuff that happened previously, I really want to compliment you on doing such a good job tonight and trying to bring it together
Thank you.
for
I
us.
appreciate that. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with y'all about it. We're excited about what we'll be able to do once we can get it off the ground, so.
Hope
Thank
you
you.
have a lot of success.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, y'all have a lovely evening.
Thank you very much. Good evening. We're going back to number 7, a public hearing at this time? Or do we have somebody else here?
No, that's the last one. Let's see, have we done?
We
We haven't
haven't-
done this.
Well, we haven't done this either.
Yeah.
You got B, D,
But we have to
and
go into
seven.
executive after we do this, so, well, and then come back and do this.
Which one?
We have to go into executive after we would do this,
So
before we
this
do
is-
this.
This is
So I would
going to be the
suggest-
last thing that we do before executive session, so we'll do 7B, then 7D.
Well, we have to do that before we do this, so this
All
would
right.
be next.
Okay, continuing our party with 8B, 2019-7381, discuss and consider action authorizing the executive director to enter into an agreement with one of 3 strategic planning firms, Tip Strategies, Inc., Avalanche Consulting, Inc., or Market Street Services, for the purpose of facilitating, creating, and implementing PCDC Community Economic Development Strategic Plan. Madam Executive Director, it's yours.
Thank you. Do we have copies for them?
They each have one under their notebooks.
Okay, under your notebook, you're going to find a very big piece of paper. With very small print, yeah.
Still need your glasses.
You're still going to need your glasses, yeah. First of all, as you know, and as we spoke earlier during our quarterly report, we completed, we basically finished SEDS 1.0. During our budget workshop, we determined that we would go back out for a request for proposal and that we would send it out to 3 companies that had, significant experience in Texas. Our proposal that we sent out had specifics that we asked for. So we did two things. We evaluated based on a point system that was surrounding certain areas based on quality, qualifications, timeline, creativity and experience, expertise and success with projects, some of those in Texas, but otherwise. And then, of course, we looked at the fees. In addition to that, we had put specifics in that proposal of what we wanted to see, and we evaluated each of those according to whether or not they actually delivered on that. So what we tried to do was to look at each of the proposals from those perspectives and see where each company fell. I will say this, that if we put every one of these companies' names in a hat and we pulled out blindly, we would get a great comprehensive economic development strategic plan. There is no question. The talent and the experience of these three companies, particularly in their expertise in Texas, has been unprecedented. And I'm going to tell you just a couple things about these companies so that you understand that. Market Street, I'll start with them first, out of Atlanta, has been doing the strategic plan for Opportunity Austin. They're the ones that help bring Austin out of the dust. And they have just completed 4.0, so they definitely know our region, and they've done a pretty good job with helping Austin grow. So that in itself is significant. Tip Strategies has been, even internationally, a firm that has done economic development strategic planning. They in particular have a significant background in defense as well, which is of course a primary interest to us now that we have the Army Futures Command. But Tip Strategy is also located in Austin, Texas, and so they know Texas well, but they've been all over the map. Their project manager, John Roberts, is actually a nationally known thought professional, and has also participated in several different large projects, including the recent H2Q. In Avalanche, their experience has been with us. They did a great job for us. I think the first time we appreciated what happened, we were able to really move through that plan very rapidly. And they did a great job with our steering committees and working with our focus groups and really bring to the table the specifics that we needed to get started. They continue to have a very strong influence in Texas, even though I haven't listed all the cities that they've worked with. But they also have an inner working knowledge of not just our community, but our community leaders, our staff, and a lot of the board members. They know us. So there's a lot of reasons why any of these companies would be excellent. So we're looking at a stellar list. But having said that, we look through it to see, are we going to get what we really wanted? And one of the things that we were targeting in the strategic plan was a laser-sharp focus on that marketing piece that we had gotten last time through all this, the comprehensive strategic planning. But what we didn't have was a little more on the, the house, where's, the geographic locations, look at the target industry, drill that down, and then look at our marketing strategy in order to get there. The Avalanche program does that, the proposal. It comes through very loud and clear. It does not in the other two. The Avalanche proposal also hit on all points. There was nothing missing in their proposal that we asked for. They delivered it right back. From a cost perspective, there's not a lot of spread in these three. The high end is Market Street down to the low end, which is Avalanche. But there's, only about $10,000 worth of difference between the three of them. So literally, we've gotten a really good response from the three companies. I asked staff to look at this too. I didn't put the scoring in here because I really, I think that it would have been a combined score at that because we had 3 independent reviews of this, and then we came together around the table, and there wasn't one that didn't select Avalanche as the consultant. So we can provide more opportunity for y'all to review the proposals. We can give you time to score them. We can spend more time in meeting with you individually. However, at this point in time, it is our recommendation that we work with Avalanche Consulting after having done our own analysis. I'll take any questions.
I only have one real question. The staff has decided that Avalanche is the best based on all of the criteria put forth. The one thing that I would like to have you address is whether or not it would be prudent to have a third set of eyes rather than a repeat of the original.
You know, that's the reason why we went out with 3 to begin with. It was because we did feel that, you know, a fresh set of eyes would potentially deliver a different end result that would be better. You know, we just weren't certain. And truthfully, I think that the proposal that we received from Market Street was really trying to go there. Market Street was trying to be very creative in their approach. They kind of threw the baby out with the bath in some cases because they said, well, we don't need to redo some of these things, but we want to focus more on that. And so that was really intriguing, and it was really tough in looking at all 3 of the proposals as to, you know, well, that's a new approach, that's a different approach, and looking at it a little differently might end up bringing different results. And the other piece of it was the fact that they had just completed this other strategic plan in Austin that could be folded in. And so it was very attractive, but their fees were higher. And some of the things that we had asked for, and particularly the marketing piece, wasn't there, the strategic planning. TIP Strategies, on the other hand, also had an excellent proposal. Tracy Daniels, who used to be in the governor's office, is on that team. She assisted recently with doing Travis County's strategic plan. So we brought this for action this evening primarily based on our interest in getting underway on the project. But we're certainly very, and of course, in order for us to post and get everything done and have it on the agenda for action, you know, we pressed to get the evaluations done. But we're very happy to take a step back and you know, involve the board. We can bring you in a special called meeting where we can discuss these again in length and in depth. So to answer your question,
I thought you did it very well.
a different approach would maybe provide a little bit more, but you know, I really feel, you know, when I went into this, I wasn't confident about, you know, maybe using the same consultant at all. But after reviewing everything and the detail that was delivered in that proposal, I'm confident, but I want to make sure everybody's happy and comfortable, so.
Full disclosure, I only read the first 2. I didn't get to Market Street. Something came up, and I was browsing the other 2, so I don't know anything about Market Street. I will tell you, after looking at a lot of these for a lot of years, there was nothing interesting about either one of them to me. I thought they were. You could have taken out Pflugerville and inserted Amarillo or any other town anywhere in there. This was the exact same presentation they give to every city. As I was reading through it, that was the feeling I got. And I never cared for that when I was mayor, and I don't particularly care for it now. Just because I didn't know how much effort, and as quickly as it happened, that quite frankly, I don't know that they could have done anything else, because this has only been out there 3 weeks or so.
Right.
But my initial thought was, why go with the exact same company? Are we just going to get the same stuff rehashed because they only have to put half the work into it because they've already done it? So that's my first thought. My second concern, and this is a concern I always have about Pflugerville, and it's my own prejudice for a lot of different reasons, and I'm always concerned with using in-town people because I think most professionals in Central Texas put Pflugerville in a box and were really hard to get out of that box. I didn't realize the Market Street was not from
They're out of
Central
Atlanta.
Texas. I like that they're not staffed with people that have been in Central Texas for 30 years.
Well, Avalanche is not, they
Within
don't,
my
they don't stay in Texas. They do most of their work outside of Texas. So they have experiences way broader than what that may appear just because they have an office here. Second, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategic Plan process is very specific. In economic development, different than the way cities and other types of plans are put together, there is a specific process to get where we want in the end result. And it is established by the Economic Development Administration of the United States. It was set apart to do certain things. And in specific, it was set apart to say, if you're going to do economic development, you need to be involving everyone. And hence, the steering committee that begins it. So the steering committee is where we have our wealth. You participated in it. You remember looking in that room and seeing 43 people that had never been in the same room together and interchanged in a community conversation. That's how it begins. The information that we do from a standpoint of trying to determine how do we compare with somebody else, or how do we look in terms of another industry, or everything that we do there, that's all very specifics: location, quotient, cluster analysis, all those kinds of things are across the board what you have to do in order to figure out what do we look like. And comparatives with other communities are the way we see where we line up. Now, this comparison that Avalanche has discussed, they were the only ones that were going to do a comparative with 5 other communities. They don't have that in their pocket. They have to go out and they have to figure that out and do that analysis and line us up with them and then show us how we compare. With that, it helps us to understand where our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Another part of a comprehensive economic development strategic plan. And once you get through all that, then you get the aha, which is then trying to figure out how are we unique, how are we different, how can we apply it. So that process is standardized. It can be done more creatively, but there's certain pieces of it that are just fairly regimented. What Avalanche was able to do, I think, was to take that process in our community the last time and to deliver on a plan that was actionable, that we stayed tight with because we knew exactly what we needed to do. Not every plan is that way. And I think that's where I share your frustration, because so many plans are put together, and I've seen this happen in other communities as well, where they have a strategic plan that is completed and done, and they put it on a dadgum shelf, and they don't know what's in it, and they don't want to take the time to read it. And so then you have a plan, and every once in a while you'll yank it out if you need it for something to try to prove that you want to do this, that, and the other, and it's in there, or it's not. But in this plan that we just did, you saw that implementation table, and we showed it to the board every quarter, and we stayed on focus, and we finished early because they helped us get organized and be able to complete it. So that piece alone is as important to me personally as your executive director as anything else that I do in this organization, is to know that I'm on the same page with my board and everybody was participating in this, and we have something that puts us as a community on the same page. So I get it, I understand what you're saying, but I also know that in order to get where we need to be, whether that's in a creative process or otherwise, there's certain elements that have to be there. So it's not just cookie cutter, it's actually EDA standard that's passed down, and not everybody does it, Jeff, I will tell you that. A lot of communities will hire a consultant who will come in and they will do halfway through all of it or bits and pieces of it, but they don't get the whole thing. We don't have to, but that's what our RFP asked for, and so that's what they delivered.
That brings up one other question. Because you surfaced it yourself, did we ask for a comparative analysis and they failed to provide it?
Yes.
In that case, that's, if they're not gonna give us
No,
what we ask for,
right.
then there's no reason to consider them.
Well, it's back to Jeff's point, which is being creative, come back and say, well, we want to do it a little different here. We want to tweak it a little bit. In ours, we wanted comparatives, and in Avalanche's, they did come back and provide opportunity for us to do that. The other two did not. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So they had the opportunity to provide their own creative response in every case, because I asked for what it was in that proposal didn't mean that they had to deliver that. Maybe they delivered something more, and let me tell you, they did. So if you look at Avalanche real quickly, They're the ones in blue. If you'll look at the blue language, I know it's small, I'll read it to you. It says includes detailed marketing plan for target industries. They were the only ones that actually had that in there, and that was one of our top priorities, even though we didn't say it was top priorities, but it was in our proposal. TIP Strategies came back, and their difference was they were going to do a public rollout plan that wasn't included in anyone else's, and that they were going to do a one-year scorecard on implementation, meaning they'd come back a year later and look at our, where we were, and they would take the implementation of what we were doing, and they would grade us, and that would be part of the proposal, and that would be a year later. They also, had the educational analysis and workforce. We couldn't find any indicators in their proposal that actually talked about that. And so, not that we couldn't go back and ask for it, but it wasn't in the initial proposal, and there wasn't any comparative communities that was cited. And then finally, under Market Street, they basically said they didn't want to repeat research endeavors that were basically available on our website. We do have an awful lot of information on our website. We don't have location quotient, we don't have cluster analysis. There are certain things that we don't have, but I think his intent was to take the richness of what he's just created with Opportunity Austin and bring it to the table and move on down the road and do some other things. So that was a creative process there. And then he also talked about, he didn't do any benchmarking comparatives. And then, of course, there wasn't any workforce education that was really, truly, clearly defined. So the most comprehensive response we got, again, was with Avalanche. And it may be boring sounding like, but we will get an excellent plan, and I think we did last time as well. But I totally am looking for direction from the board as to whether we spend a little more time in conversation and have another meeting. This is an important decision.
On additional cost, it says $250 an hour to $3,000 an hour. Is that supposed to be $300 an hour? Surely they're not going to charge us $3,000 an hour.
No,
I'm sorry, that's 300.
$300,
it's supposed to
okay.
be 300.
Okay.
It depends on who the consultant is.
Yes, sorry.
I can tell you that.
I assumed that, but I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, that was for my fees, Jeff. I was going to charge them.
I would tend to accept the expert opinion of the staff and take your suggestion. That would be my decision.
Well, we're not trying to force feed here. We want a team decision is what we want.
Help me out, because I think I remember the comparative city analysis before in the last one, and that's the last time I saw it. And what I'm saying is you've been highlighting that, but I didn't see it since when we got briefed by Tony the last time.
No, what we do is we look at the comparatives. How are we different? How are we same? How are other communities compared to us doing? Then you take that information and you pull that together in your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, conversation. After that, you're right, it really doesn't do us a lot of good.
Don't do any more follow-up.
But it does help us.
It helps develop our SWOT up front.
Exactly. And if we don't have comparative, it's like we're looking at something in a vacuum. If I bring you numbers,
Would be 2 years.
for instance, and I have in the past on our quarterly report that says, okay, we had X amount of site visits. Well, okay. Now, this year, we're able to go back and say, hey, we can compare that to last year. How do we do? So we're looking at trying to do some comparative, so it's not in a vacuum. What did we do last year compared to this year, thing. So without comparatives, it makes it really tough to see where we stand as a community. We know we're fast growth. We know we're an awesome community in terms of our ability to have diversity, et cetera. But how does that play out in our child poverty, in our growth, in our housing, in our opportunities for industrial development or creation of jobs, workforce, education pieces? How does that compare with other communities? What is making them tick better than us, or are we ticking better than them? And then that identifies the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So to me, you always have to be able to compare, because if you don't compare, you just look at it in a vacuum. So from my perspective, it's important in trying to develop that SWOT. Does that answer your question?
I heard what you said. Maybe these other companies, we're going to just put it as part of the SWOT.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying is you
It's
put
not
a
a
huge
major part
premium-
of it.
You put a huge premium when you're outlining your case for why this is more important and why it's at the top of everyone else.
Right.
And I I'm just trying to think, since Tony briefed it, and we were sitting in a different place, and maybe it was Amy, one of the two, I think it was Tony, briefed it, I don't see us ever using it again.
Well, and we don't have to do it. It's just that it assists us with
We
getting.
didn't ever use it again, so it's interesting to me that we put a premium on something that we never used again.
Well, we would again if we decided we want to come back to those communities and
Now,
look
that
at them
would be-
again.
Now, that
And we
is
say-
interesting, it's great. This
Yeah.
is a snapshot then, how are they at now? Using those same communities, how do we do in relative?
Right.
I'm all over that,
further on.
that would make sense to me.
But we got to start somewhere. It's like I give you numbers of what we did last year
And that's
in our
more-
quarterly report.
that's
I don't
more-
have any numbers prior.
And you put
So-
more premium on that.
That's
than
right.
expertise on defense or other areas, or a second set of eyes, a second opinion that-
Right.
on the same thing that they've, there is a premium on that.
It wasn't the premium there. The premium I put on it was the marketing strategic plan that was going to come out of it.
But don't we have a marketing plan that's different?
The
already?
marketing plan we have that we got in the first round was not as detailed. We had to pull it out of the rest of the comprehensive plan. We're looking for a separate piece. And that one and Avalanche is the only one that really pulled that out, got that, grasped it, and put it in there. Now, again, I say, if we need to spend more time reviewing these and looking at, the approaches and everything, I'm very happy to do that. We just wanted to meet the meeting this evening with a possible action item on here for your decision, but I'm open to direction from the board.
Anything else?
So you're looking for a motion, one way or the other?
Yes, sir. We are.
So I motion that we go with the staff's recommendation for Avalanche.
I second that. I have a motion and a second to accept the staff's recommendation and authorize the executive director to make an agreement with Avalanche Consulting for SEDS version 2. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Next item appears to be discuss and consider action, let's see, 8D, 2019-7383. Discuss and consider action authorizing an economic development performance agreement between,
We have to have a public hearing before we.
that was the one that we said was going to be last.
No, this is last.
That's what, all right.
I'm sorry.
Pardon me? Any corrections?
My fault that I wasn't more clear.
That's item 7A, 2019-7379, a public hearing regarding economic development performance agreement between Project Azure, a manufacturing company, and PCDC not to exceed 105,000 for primary jobs.
So we're opening the public hearing.
Is there any public comment? There being none, public hearing is now closed.
That's it?
If there's, I took it that you opened it and you now closed it.
There does not appear to be anyone here to speak at the public hearing.
Indeed.
So on to 8D.
On to 8D.
Okay.
2019-7383, discuss and consider action authorizing an economic development performance agreement between Project Azure, a manufacturing company, and PCDC not to exceed $105,000 for primary jobs.
Yes, sir.
Madam Director.
Yes, sir. I would recommend that we table this action item until after executive session.
Let's go to executive session then.
It is tabled. We are going to go to executive session at 9:25. Thank you all. As $36. We are out of executive session. We have one item that needs to be taken care of.
2 items, 8D and
2 items?
8D. We still need to do 8D acquire, and then,
I'm sorry,
nope.
Why don't you make a couple motions?
Make some motion.
All right, okay, so I'd like to,
Open the item.
I'd make a motion to approve item 8D.
Support.
All right, so we have
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I forgot about 8D.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
And then on item 9A3,
And, yeah, we're at 9A3, 2019-7392, an open session item, discuss and consider action on executive session items as needed.
make a motion to increase the executive director's pay by 3%, effective as of October 1st, which happens to coincide with the item as presented in our budget. 2018.
Second.
Motion and a second's been made. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Future items.
Get new glasses. Get a new
If you had
body.
glasses, you could see what we just did.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there any future items to discuss for the next agenda?
I want to continue discussion on the, 15,000.
Incubator, EDU. Okay,
Yes.
happy to do that. See if we can round up some more money, too.
Anything else?
Make motion that we adjourn.
That's the best motion all night.
All in favor?
Aye.